right. Hold on. I'm gonna make you bigger. I want your skin head bigger on my screen. Okay.
I made sure I put some good head cream on so I'm shiny.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Grind My Gears. It's been a while since I actually got to do this because I've been doing some other shit in my life, setting up a gym and you know, kind of like a podcast studio now. So pretty awesome that I can get back to it. But I figured after a long layoff, the best person to talk to would be this skinhead living in another country. Because, uh, um, but how you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. Living out here in Belize. I came up to see a couple months ago in Canada
Yeah,
and I froze my ass off. It's
yeah,
hilarious. It wasn't that cold, but I remember being in your school there and I was freezing. I was absolutely
yeah.
freezing. I was wearing a jacket too, right? It's crazy.
And one of the things I kind of been learning now is like most of the gyms have no air conditioning, right? And so I have AC here, and it made me a bit of a pussy for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, all of my gyms always had AC, man. I actually, you know what? Doing jujitsu and Thai boxing without AC is absolutely fine. Doing MMA, it's fine. No AC, but lifting weights with no AC sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also I like I don't know about you, but I like the heat. Like there's been some of those times when you're rolling in the summertime, and it's not even that hard of a roll, but then the guy's on top of you, and the body heat combined with like a 40 degrees outside, and it gives you that like you have to push through something different to get through that roll. And it's not even a hard roll; it could be just a white belt, but you're just like
Well,
sweating profusely. You lost like 5 pounds of body weight already. You know what I mean?
well, here we call that walking outside.
Yeah.
It gets crazy. Like May is the hottest month here. May is insane. Like I have to speak in Fahrenheit because it's what my Jeep tells me and what the apps tell you here, right? So
Yeah.
it's like in the dry season, especially end of the dry season, which is May, early June, it's like 115 real feel every day.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely crazy. And because I'm off grid, I just crank up my AC and don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Good. Well, yeah.
So yeah,
That's another bonus that you're doing, living the off
yeah.
the grid thing. Uh, I wanted to dive right into shit with you because obviously when we talk, there's nothing that's off limit, right? And this one
Yep.
kind of, I it's fresh in my brain, so I want to talk to you about it right away. Is On Saturday we actually got the chance to go out and watch The Sound of Freedom, the movie, right? And I noticed a few things right off the bat. Like first of all, when we walked into the theater, everywhere else had beautiful posters and it was all lit up, and you walk in, you can see the poster, like the Barbie movie was just out, and you can see people. The Sound of Freedom didn't even have a poster. They just put like a fucking paper on the thing. When you walk into a theater and you're supposed to see like the movie poster, it just had a piece of paper on there. We had to search tremendously different theaters because there's not. I mean, like we live in Toronto, the biggest city in Canada. We had to search to find places that were showing it. So there's a reason for that. And then the movie itself. Now, the movie itself, I haven't been choked up at a movie in a long time. Right? I had to like force myself not to cry because like halfway through the movie, when you're watching a movie and the first 30 minutes, all you hear is people fucking eating popcorn and putting their hands in shit. Right? I'm like, we're about an hour in the movie. I'm like, why is there still people eating popcorn? And I realized it was like people just bawling in their seats, crying, right? Right? And for me, the biggest thing why I needed to see this, like, I didn't really want to buy into the hype of, media and all that kind of stuff. But what I saw on the snippets that CNN posted about the movie, I had to like really go and see for myself, and I found out that it was tremendous amount of bullshit that they were spewing on the news and in the media about the movie. Like half of it wasn't even true. Like the first thing I saw when this movie came out was they're talking about how it's QAnon related, some shit like that. I didn't get any of that. They were talking about blood drinking and shit like that. There was none of that. I think Rolling Stone said that it was like a this is a movie for brainworms for men with problems,
Fathers with brain
fa-
worms.
fathers with brainworms. Yeah, some shit. What I saw was a story about, and it doesn't even matter if it was 100% factual. And what I saw, like as a dad, like right after the movie, I just wanted to go and hug my kid. You know what I mean? I don't know if have you had a chance to see it yet?
Yeah, well, there's no theaters here in Belize, so obviously the wonderful internet has provided me with the ability to watch the movie.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I've seen the movie, and you said something there. It's like it's not 100% factual, and that is the first thing that brings up the double standard of the fascist world, the neo-fascist world that we're living in. Like the very first time I was on your show, I talked about this, and anything that goes against the narrative, unless it's 100%, you know, factual and this is the whole argument like that. Well, are you a doctor? Like, are you a
yeah,
CIA agent in this case? Where I'm going with that. Like, if you want to have an opinion regarding medical stuff, well, are you a doctor? Well, you're not a doctor, so you can't have an opinion. It's not like,
yeah,
I'm a human with a brain in my head, right? I read. Maybe I spoke to a doctor. Maybe I've read an article from a doctor, right? Now, in the case of this movie, yeah, I saw it, and there's something that's obvious with all movies that has always existed, and that these neo-fascists want to blow out of your head is the fact that when it says based on a true story, we all know about cinematic license. We
yeah,
know it's a movie. We know it's going to be um, they're going to exaggerate some things because you have to entertain people. You can't just go out and make it look like everything is 100%. And nobody with a brain thinks that
yeah,
ever. And they come out with these articles, and it's automatically because if you don't believe in the narrative, you're obviously stupid because you're othered, the whole neo-fascist agenda,
yeah,
right? So if you see this movie and you feel inspired by it, you feel, well, you must have brainworms. Like, how stupid of a headline is that from
yeah.
Rolling Stone, right? You must, is Sound of Freedom is a movie for fathers with brainworms. I mean, since when is it offensive to see a parent care about children and his children and who has the power to maybe help somebody else? And since when is it offensive to see children rescued, whether it's a true story or not?
Or not? Yeah,
Like, this is
exactly.
based on a true, it doesn't matter. It's they, and then it's an over exaggeration. Like, you know, if the movie said like this happens to 100 million kids every year, and maybe it only happens to 15 kids, let's say, it's
It's
still too
st-
many.
yeah, one is too
It's
many.
still too many. And
Yeah,
even if it is only 15 kids and two of those kids get rescued, how is that a bad story?
yeah,
This is where the narrative is completely blown up. Like, I'm going to bring up Cuties,
yeah,
right? Cuties comes out in 2020. It is soft child pornography. I don't care what people, if you watch that movie and you try to defend it, you're a fucking pedophile.
yeah.
All right.
I
Sorry about the language on your
no, no,
podcast,
I
but
don't give a shit. I didn't even watch. I seen the previews and I couldn't do it. It just I'm like, no, that like I wouldn't even let my kids near that kind of content. I'm not even gonna entertain it in myself. Like it was something I looked at and I looked at the previews. I'm like, that's not happening. Like I'm not watching that film in my home, right?
well, it's
And
see that's where both sides kind of fall off, right?
yeah,
Like,
and I know like
if you
I have to watch it in order to objectively talk about it, but I couldn't bring myself to it because like I can't watch a 10-year-old dance like that, like suggestfully dance like that.
well, it's see for me, I didn't watch the whole movie. Okay,
Yeah,
so like I fall into that because what happened was I was like, all right, me and Blaine were sitting on the bed. It was shortly after George was born, so like Blaine was still from her C-section. She was still down, and she didn't want to watch it, and I didn't want to watch it. And I was just like, look, if we're gonna have an opinion on this, we gotta at least because we're reading about it. There's this big Netflix boycott.
Yeah,
We canceled our Netflix actually because of that movie.
because of it. Yeah,
So what we started to watch it, and it was terribly uncomfortable. It was like, oh, this is not right.
yeah,
And it's not the it's see the dancing, yeah, I don't believe kids should dance like that. If you're a liberal, like I'm actually a liberal, but not to the
yeah.
modern day, because if you're not with the narrative, you're far right. Like
Far right.
historically, I would fall I would fall basically right in the center. And anyway, I've skewed a little bit more right just due to the chaos and the madness of what's going
Yeah,
on the other side in the illusion of the left-right paradigm. But so what we ended up doing was we started feeling comfortable, and then we just went online and we're just like, just okay, just clips. We just don't want to watch this movie.
yeah,
The cameras, the way the cameras were shot on these 11-year-old girls, like touching their vaginas and moving and shooting on their butts, like it was disgusting. It was
yeah,
exactly the kind of thing they would do in a sexually provocative movie for adults.
yeah,
Exactly. And they're trying to, so I called up a couple articles because when I saw these reviews on Sound of Freedom, I was like, right away, cuties popped into my head. I'm like, wait a
yeah,
second, they're bashing Sound of Freedom. Like, if this doesn't wake you up that there's something extremely wrong with our culture, I don't know what else can. And I'm losing
yeah,
faith, repeat like daily in humanity.
yeah,
But you know, you see the Rolling Stone. You can look up the Rolling Stone article and review of cuties, and it starts off saying, that the headline is like it's a coming of age movie for young
yeah.
girls.
I've seen that one. Yeah, yeah,
And but then you read the article, and the article talks about, oh, how the far right is against this, the far right is against this, the far right is against this. It's so manipulative and such propaganda, and they're trying to make it sound like you're against the independence of young women. First of all, they're
yeah,
11-year-old girls, they're not
yeah,
young women.
yeah.
Okay.
No.
Firstly, they're not even teenagers. like
Yeah,
they're little girls, and they're defending it. And I watched a YouTube review on it, and this guy's talking about, like, well, it can be uncomfortable, but I could see. I don't even want to talk about what this freaking guy said. It was
yeah,
disgusting, and it was defended. Like, I love reading comments, right? Because I
yeah,
enjoy arguing, and I like to troll the comments. But the I read the comments, and some of these people defending it's like either they're just that brainwashed, they're pedophiles, or they're just not paying attention and haven't seen it and are just so brainwashed by the whole comment, the far right. Like,
yeah,
the cinematography in that movie is fucking disgusting. It's
yeah,
softcore childhood pornography. Netflix got sued. They ended up pulling it off, and they're pulling it off on Netflix. But the fact that these media outlets supported it, and now you see on the other side a
the
PG movie. It would be
yeah,
PG-13 because there's gunfire in it, where
yeah.
kids
But
are rescued and they're attacking it because the far right, QAnon. Like, what is wrong with our culture?
the biggest takeaway I took from it, other than the message of the movie, obviously, but in the political landscape of things, was that for you to be angry at something, like you said, for you to be angry and to try to discredit something that, like, if that happened to you and you're a child, you would fucking freak out. And it's like the dad in the movie said, like, he got the one kid back, and then he's like, well, I can't rest until my other kid's back in her bed, right? Like, that's how every parent would feel, right? And to discredit it makes me like wonder more. It makes me wonder more what you were trying to hide than anything. Like, why are we trying to, like, this should be an issue that it's a no brainer. Like, we argue about a lot of stupid shit, right, over the last couple of years, but this shouldn't be an issue where anybody should have any difference of opinion. We should all come. It's a clear vision that this is wrong,
Well, the
and for
same. Go ahead.
and
Sorry.
sorry, and for them to try in such a big manner try to silence and suppress the film, and the message that it's giving out makes me wonder. Like, this is, you know either it's bang on and they're 100% accurate that this is going on at this large scale volume, and or there are some very, very, very powerful and wealthy, influential people that if this continues to be exposed, will be exposed as pedophile. Like the fact that we can't even get a list of the Epstein Island shit and all that stuff, and even me saying that would get me censored now, right? Epstein Island, like there's some people out there in very influential positions doing some very, very awful, evil shit to human beings and to women and to kids, and the fact that they're trying to silence it tells me that that's an actual fact, and we need to fucking find these assholes, and we need to put an end to it.
The excuses that they come up with too are just ridiculous. Like when I was jumping in there, I was going to say is that the exact same people who claim to be protecting the vulnerable classes, right? Like the
Yeah,
whole LGB crap month.
yeah,
They're claiming that they're trying to protect vulnerable people, right? They claim the victimhood of the trans movement and they're trying to protect who is more vulnerable than children,
exactly.
than
Yeah,
children. Like I said, if it's only 15 kids, well, we know it's far more than that. Another
yeah.
one of the excuses is, well, it's mostly 15 to 17-year-old kids. So what the
Doesn't
fuck
matter.
dismisses that,
Yeah, doesn't matter.
right? Like, it does not matter. I remember seeing a movie when I was a kid. I can't remember the name. There's other Gen Xers who will watch this who may remember it. It says something like, I know my name is Steven. I think that's the name of the movie. So
Okay.
it's about this kid who's with his family and they go out to a diner and I don't know. Remember, I saw this a long time ago, but
Yeah,
it really resonated with me with the kid. I was like 10, between 9 and 12 years old when I saw it. And the kid gets abducted at this diner and he ends up with this new family. Now, it wasn't sexual exploitation. I don't know. Maybe it was. I wouldn't have understood it at the time,
yeah,
right? Because I'm between 9 and 12 and I was just a little boy. And if I have any ideas, the fact that I'm a little boy, I'm being manipulated mentally. But anyway, the um, the boy felt terrible, like his family had rejected him. Like, because he was his last interaction with his family, he had a bad conversation, and his
yeah,
parents made some sort of threat to him, like, "Oh, we'll leave you there, whatever." It's just a one of those things to scare a kid, but then he ended up getting kidnapped. And then he went through all this time, and when he was 15, he was finally brought back to his family. Well, the reason I'm tying this in is child abduction is a serious, scary thing. And this
yeah,
is a vulnerable class of people. And if you're telling me these kids aren't abducted, they're just abducted by people who want a kid, like, come on.
yeah,
They're doing things with them,
yeah.
right? Like
100%.
I have a cousin. He was he was a police officer and he was an undercover police officer. And he worked um, undercover for pedophile rings. I met him when he was pretty young, just becoming a police officer, and he was a really fun, married in uncle. Great guy.
Yeah,
And then a few years later, he wasn't fun anymore. I remember saying to my parents, telling my parents, and I was probably about 12 or 13 at the time, and they told me this is what his stuff he's been working on. It's very hard on him. It
yeah. It's taking
completely
its toll.
changed him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a different man now. Like he last time I saw him, it was probably 20 years apart from the time I saw, like from the time I met him and he was happy, then the time I saw him and he was a different man, and then the time I saw him again because he didn't live
yeah,
in my area, but he was finally happy again, and hearing like his wife and her sisters talk about him that, oh yeah, good for him, he's been through all this stuff. But man, and you can't tell me that he doesn't go to sleep at night with terrible memories of busting
no,
all these pedophiles,
yeah,
right? It's real. And like, yeah, and you're right, like they talk about this, they try to make it so that people don't even watch the film, and the
yeah.
film isn't offensive at all, Sound of Freedom.
No, the film is in essence a regular film to me. It's the
It's
message
very,
behind the
yeah,
film
yeah, it's
that they
very
don't want you
calm.
to
It's
hear.
very, yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing controversial about the film in my because I was going into it looking for controversy, like looking for the blood dripping and looking for like there wasn't even any sex scenes at all, like in terms of
no, just
abuse,
that
right?
one heartbreaking scene where the drunk guy walked in and closes
Yeah,
the
before he
windows, which
beats the
is,
shit out of her. Or no, no, okay, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah, that
and
one,
then she was
right?
in the tub after. That,
Yeah,
yeah, that
but like,
was,
yeah,
yeah.
you don't see anything, right? So it's
And
not like
are you telling me that that never happens? Like,
no, it
how can
happens all the time.
CNN or Rolling Stone say that that never happens?
Yeah,
Bullshit, that doesn't happen,
and
right? Like,
my wife had told me I don't know the person's name, so it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna, but she knows a girl she went to school with growing up who was trafficked, and the girl, um, I, and my wife, she almost broke down crying when she was telling me because the girl would be forced to sleep with you know upwards of 15 to 20 men a day, right? And like,
yeah,
can you think like just think about that? Like that's like a prostitute does like one or two, maybe some more. You're talking about against your will, forced against like a day. Like I can't even fathom it. And for that girl to just, my wife said she's come back from it and she's living a decent life now. Like kudos to her, but like 15 to 20 a day, like just thinking about it disgusts
was she
me. Right?
underage too?
Yeah,
Well, it doesn't matter, even if she's trafficked against her
it
will,
doesn't
that doesn't
matter,
matter. But
right?
it's more psychologically damaging though to
Yeah,
a child.
like like just think about that. Even like 15 to 20 a day, like Jesus Christ, the the amount of trauma, like you can never trust a person again. If
No.
and just the fact that we're even talking about the fact that there's a pushback against this narrative, it's disgusting, right? But it comes to show you,
Yeah, yeah. It makes no sense, the vitriol that the mainstream has against this film.
yeah,
Zero sense whatsoever.
and it comes back to the current state of Canada and its political turmoil in America and what's going on. And I think one of the things I remember when you came and visited me, and I know you remember this because I asked you the question right up face to face. I asked you, "Do you miss Canada?" And you said no, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to expand on that more, not because like why don't you fucking miss Canada, you stupid white guy, right? Like what? Like, can you just explain to people like you left when in the height of the COVID nonsense and moved and started a new life there. And many would expect because your family's here, you built a life here that coming back you would feel some sort of like remorse of leaving. Like I know that me, I would probably do it, but you straight up look at me blank face and said no, right? So I know you meant it, right? There was no like doubt in your mind. Can you explain to me why you feel that way given the current state of the West, basically, right?
There's so much to this
Yeah,
question. It was it nice to go up and see Canada, see my family? Yeah. It was weird for me. I'm gonna get to the answer to the question. Like it's just gonna lead just because there's some
yeah,
positivity too, right? So, um, when I landed, I got my rental car and I was worried because my left eye is so bad, right? And
yeah,
Belize, I mean, there's like one road the whole country, like, and traffic's not that bad. You get on a highway, in the morning, you may not see another car for an hour, right? Like, and
yeah.
then like, but it is not that dead, but it's just
No,
depends on the time of the day. Um, and it's too like a friend of mine here said one time. I cycle with him, but he was helping me move up to where I live now. And he said that Blaine and George were going close to the highway. He's like, "Oh, they got to be careful. That's the highway." I'm like, "Bro, where I'm from, this is a this is a backcountry road, man. This is
yeah,
not a highway, right?" Like, and so anyway, I get into the rental car, and it was really weird because first of all, my eye didn't bother me at all because I can't see straight ahead in my left eye anymore because of the damage that I
yeah,
sustained from shingles. But my peripheral is perfect, and that's what I was worried about. I can see perfectly my hand over here, but I can't see it
yeah,
here, right? Like, but and my right eye is perfect. But the it was easy to drive on the highway, and it was so weird when I was going down, like cutting down Stony Creek along the QEW, and like it's like nothing had changed. Like it's like my brain was there the day before. It was almost like
Yeah,
waking up from the dream in a way, right? Like I got to Welland and everything, like I knew where everything was, and I was pretty incognito when I was there, just because I just didn't want to have those conversations, right? I
yeah,
was, I just saw the message and saw the important people in my life. Not that other people aren't important, but like
yeah,
a lot of the key figures, and visited them. My family hijacked me for like 3 days, which was great. Like it was,
yeah.
but anyway, the that part of it was nice. As far as living in Canada, why? What? What? Like
Yeah.
convenience. Living in Belize is not convenient.
No,
It's a third world
I couldn't
country.
couldn't
Okay.
imagine it would be, right?
I moved to where I moved because where I was living on the beach, I broke my phone twice in a row in 2 weeks. Um, and I had to drive 2 hours to get it fixed. I was like, okay, enough of this. Plus,
Yeah,
where I lived, I liked a lot of the people down there. It's cool, but to live there for my kid and stuff, it's not for me.
yeah.
I still go every week because I still teach down there, but in everything's inconvenient in Belize. The people here, uh, a lot of people may be turned off by this, but I don't care. The people here have a lot more faith than Canadians. Canada has lost its way.
Oh, sure.
It's given up faith in religion, faith in God, whatever they worship, to faith in convenience. And that's by the power of the government. Government doesn't want you seeing anything as a higher power than itself, right? The
Yeah,
government wants you to worship only it. Let's think about living in Canada, all right? Everything is regular. When I went up, I saw this like crazy. First of all, it's like zombies walking around, right?
yeah.
Like I'm sitting in a mall.
100%.
My gym used to be in a mall. I'm just watching people walk around with their shopping bags and stuff. When you've been separated from that for a couple of years, um, it's really, it's like, what, this is what you're doing with your time, and you're taxed so much. Like you make $100,000 a year in Canada, which is equivalent to about $165,000 Belize,
Yeah.
and you still can barely afford to live
Well,
because
like
the
I had a
government. Go
they
ahead.
take it all. I had a one of the guys I train with a lot here. He just recently competed in South Africa, and he went down to South Africa for the Waco. They had a tournament and all that stuff, right? And
Yep.
he came back and he said he can see himself living there. The cost of living is cheap. You get to just nature. There's nature. There's everything. He's I'm like, well, what about crime? I asked him like, he's like, there's no different than in Toronto. Like you see bums, you see homeless people. I think we've been given this fake sense of security that Canada and North America in general is this like super developed place where there is no other reasonable solution outside of North America. Whereas that's not the fact. The fact is that there's tons of places in the world where you can live comfortably, keep more of your money, be taxed a lot less, and live a much more happier and fulfilled life. One of the biggest things is I living here now, running a business here, and I'm lucky where they would, they'd call me the fringe, but I'm an independent thinker, right? I don't get easily manipulated by things other than food. Food fucking manipulates the shit out of me because I'm a fat fuck sometimes, right? But one of the things I see here quite frequently is, you know, everyone just wakes up, goes to whatever job that they've been deemed uh, qualified for. They get their paycheck. They go home. They sit on their couch, TV, computer, whatever, consume more things that tell them that this is their role in
Programming.
life. Yes,
Receive their programming. I mean, they're called
receive their
programs for a
yeah,
reason.
and so they will sit there, continue to be fed that this is their role in life, to be the worker bee, and then when the time is right, you will get your pension and your allowance, and you will be able to retire with your allowance, and you'll be happy, and that's a fulfilling life. And that's the West in a nutshell. Um,
Yes, and it's much further than that. Like you
yeah,
like the government takes you work for the government. That's what you do. If you're not even working for the government, you work for the government because you're
yeah.
paying so much in taxes. And the it's crazy how Canadians are so stupid. I'm gonna say that. I'm sorry.
No, you're
To
right. You're
believe
100% right.
to believe that okay, I pay this tax so my health care is free. Do you realize if you kept that money, you could pay for actual health care and it wouldn't
100%.
be so fucking expensive
Yeah,
because the government pays for it is everything is overpriced. You want to get a surgery done. If you don't pay your stupid taxes in Canada that go to do your garbage healthcare, which murdered my mother, by the way.
yeah,
I lost faith in the Canadian healthcare system when I was 14 years old. They tried to kill my mother then, and then they ended up succeeding eventually.
yeah.
So and I don't care if that's controversial. It's the truth.
No, it's the
You go to
truth. I
Mexico,
agree.
you can get these surgeries done by great doctors for a fraction of the price. And if you kept the money that you made in Canada, instead of paying all these stupid taxes, you'd be able to get those procedures done, and you'd probably be healthier because you don't have to wait so damn long to do
Yeah,
everything. And we and that's the other thing with the program. And you said about safety. You're like, oh, what about crime? All right. So my first year going to Ironman in Cozumel, I drove from Belize to Mexico. And I had a couple people I respect, comment, oh, you're driving through some pretty sketchy areas. But they've never been to Mexico. I remember my first trip to Mexico. And is Mexico 100% safe everywhere? No,
no,
nowhere
nowhere
is.
is.
Right? And yeah, does the cartels have control of it? Yes, but they build this thing up in your head that the whole country's trying to get you,
Yeah,
right? Understand, and it's these left-wing idiots who don't experience anything. They just listen to the whatever the fucking messaging is, and they say they're all accepting, and they're not accepting, like because they see them all, everyone's trying to get them. Well, if you're all this accepting, you would assume that they're actually pretty nice people. That is the
yeah,
Latino culture. They're extremely Catholic in Mexico, extremely Christian. You go there, that culture is so family oriented. I lost my wallet in Cozumel last year. I left it on the day after Ironman. I was a zombie. I went to the finishers day to buy some gear,
yeah,
and like the shirt included, right? Like
yeah.
I went to buy some gear, and I left my wallet there. We get back to the condo where we were staying. I was like, oh shit, I don't have my wallet because I thought I threw it in the bag of my stuff. I went back, couldn't find it. I'm like, day after Ironman, I just killed myself all this time. I'm looking forward to 10 days of vacation. No
Uh,
wallet. I'm like, great.
yeah,
Right. So we go to this restaurant and we're sitting down. I decided to have a couple margaritas, join some margaritas, and I get a random Facebook message from a Mexican. Is this yours? It's my Ontario driver's license.
yeah,
I'm like, yes, I have your wallet. Okay, great. Thank you. Like,
yeah,
great. I knew exactly how many pesos I had in my wallet. 1,500 pesos in my wallet. I went to pick up my wallet. Person gave me their home address, right? Blaine came with me. She was a little worried just in case something sketchy's going on, right? That's just normal. Yeah, I would do that in
yeah.
Canada,
You have to do that anyway.
right? Yeah. And I went to this person's place. There she was, beautiful girl. Um, gives me my wallet. I take the $1,500 out because in my mind it was lost. I give her the
Yeah,
$1,500, 1,500 pesos, a lot less than $1,500.
yeah,
I go to give her it's $5 US per 100 pesos approximately, right? So,
yeah,
um, right. So anyway, so about $75 I was supposed to give her because in my mind it was gone. She wouldn't take a penny. Like she's saying, no, no, no. Then I go to give her 1,000. No, I go to give her five. Doesn't want
yeah,
it. Gets my wallet back. We're programmed to believe that. My first time going to Mexico was in 2012. I remember getting to the resort and being paranoid to get out of the resort. And we went to Playa del Carmen with a group, and we were afraid to get separated from the group because in our minds we were programmed that they're always trying to kidnap you and rape you,
yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And hold you
Yeah,
for ransom. And yes, that can happen, but that can happen anywhere.
can happen.
And it's
It can
easier to
happen
have.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's easier to happen in a country that you don't speak the language. I speak a little better Spanish now. It's still not that great. I'm a monster
yeah.
at Duolingo, and then someone speaks Spanish in front of me, and it's a different dialect, and I was there's nothing there. But anyway, you know, it's fine. So I drove there, no problems. I did it again last year. One person said, "Oh, yeah, I can't believe you're driving through that country with your child." It's like, do I know
Well,
it's possible for my beautiful little boy to get abducted because he's a gorgeous kid? Like, yeah,
yeah.
that's why I'm gonna protect it.
But that
Right? So
happens
that,
here in broad daylight in Canada, and people just watch and film with their phone. Um,
oh man,
I he, this I don't know if you saw this, but a few like maybe a week or two ago in the Eglinton subway station right by where I live, um, some guy stabbed the other guy, right? And he ran away, and the guy that was stabbing him ran down the train cars to go chase him, obviously to keep fucking shanking him. And I don't mind if you don't have like me and you train and like I own a gym and you own gyms and we teach people self defense. If you don't know what you're doing and you're afraid for your safety, yes, stay the fuck away. But we're talking about minimum in the video 100 people in that train car, right? Um,
yeah.
Now I'm not saying you need to dive into the line of a knife to protect the other guy. That's not what I'm saying. Not one person pulled the alarm on the train. Not one person tried to like maybe trip the guy that was chasing the guy. Not one person I saw run after the guy to maybe stop him from further injuring that person. All I saw was people with their phones recording and people running away. And what bugged me about that was we live in this place now in Toronto, which slowly is turning into Gotham City and will turn in way worse with the new leadership that this one in place. We live in a society where people rather record it and capture it on their phone than help. And like, my wife was like, well, I don't know any jujitsu or Muay Thai or MMA or self defense like you do. Like, what would I be able to do? I'm like, yeah, but if that same guy went and stabbed a child outside that train, you would have regretted it for the rest of your fucking life, right? Not trying to intervene or try to do something, anything. Just pull
It's
the
like
fucking
spy,
alarm. Yeah,
like Spider-Man, the
yeah,
2001 Spider-Man, right? When he let the
like
guy go and then he
yeah,
stabbed his uncle, right? Yeah,
stab his
or
uncle.
shoots
Like
his uncle.
just like not one person stopped the train, pull the alarm. Was not one person ran to maybe go to the front of the train to let somebody know. It was just this is what's happening, and this is what Canada's turned into. Whereas when I was growing up, if somebody did that shit, they beat the fuck out of that guy.
What about,
Oh,
people recording? What about instead of using your phone to record, to dial 911
well,
and
there's no
report?
service in the station still. They still don't have service and fucking
Are you
internet in the
serious?
station. Yeah,
And
and you
Canada's a
and you
developed country. You
yeah,
don't have internet service down there,
and you have to wonder. Well,
especially with attacks happening.
the media is saying that next year it's going to be in there next year. There's problems with the telecom companies. Of course, there's problems with the telecoms companies. They're monopolies in Canada, and they want to get fucking paid by the government to put that thing in. They don't want to do it out of the goodness of their heart. They
Hmm.
they want money, right? And so that and but they bug me about that is not one person tried to stop anything. That guy could have been butchered in front of them. Butchered. He could have been shanked, neck could have been sliced open. Not one person would have fucking intervened. That's the
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
like,
Canada we live in right now.
well, and that happened. Remember that something like that happened. Worse than that happened in Manitoba back in
Yeah, that guy's free now.
like 2009. Yeah, he got his head chopped off on the. That's disgusting, on the
And the
bus.
guy
Like,
that chopped his
that's
head off is free right now. That's Canada's
that's
justice
nuts.
system.
That's
And
crazy.
and uh and I mean Paul Bernardo. Like I understand that him going to medium security might mean he gets, the general population gets to him a little bit more, but the fact that he's Canada's most like the crimes that he committed, he should not be seeing any light. He should be in a dark room for the rest of his days. And the fact that Homolka's been out for what 10 years living a regular life, like
Yeah.
Canada, like to say Canada's broken is an understatement. It's far beyond broken,
Well, the
especially
Paul
our justice
Bernardo
system.
thing is, if you go to a medium security and then you can't live in you got to be careful when you think about that. Like, you can't live in a free society where you think, you let your your criminals do the justice for you, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
that's not here. I'm not for the death penalty, right? Like, but however, I
I
don't
am
blame
for
the people.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't blame people who believe in that for, but see, I would believe in the death penalty if I got to swing the sword,
Yeah.
right? Like if someone in my family was murdered and it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a proper court, which we're struggling to have anymore, in a
Yeah.
proper court, I would rather than sit in the room and watch this person receive a lethal injection, I want to take my samurai sword and do the deed
Chop.
myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And yeah, but at the same time, I don't know because I'm a dad. If that's something like that happened to my kid, yeah, I would definitely
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
But to
watching that movie, Sound of Freedom, the whole thing, the whole time I'm watching it, and me thinking, I'm like, if this was me, I wouldn't be that calm as these fucking. I'd be fucking going in there with all my fucking guns, just fucking blowing the shit off of everything, and I'd just go out in a gun blaze of glory trying to find my kid. Obviously, that's why I'm not in law enforcement. I do what I do, right?
I lack the disposition.
I don't sign me up for the fucking law because I would just be like, the rapist in there. All right, let's fucking get like I. He's not getting out in handcuffs. He's getting shot before he even makes it out the door. But
And then you become the black face of white supremacy.
yep, yeah. Speaking of that, did you see the craziness that the Prime Minister of Canada said about the Muslim people supporting the Christian folk who were speaking out against the grooming against their children? That they were.
Well, yeah, like that goes again against like when I was talking to the Rolling Stone articles regarding the comparison of Cuties and Sound of Freedom with the far right. Like it's the boogeyman, right?
Yeah,
It's like this is like George Orwell could have written this script extremely easily. Like it can't be the Muslims' fault. Like you know you ass like Justin Trudeau is he is so and I look I live out of Canada now.
yeah,
Canadians are very arrogant, very arrogant. I'm sorry.
yeah,
You go to places and you make these assumptions. Understand, like it's funny living here because I was guilty of it too. You go to like the Yucatan or someplace else in the world and you get some wisdom from a local tribesman and you go back and then you feel like you've gotten this wisdom. You do realize that that wise old indigenous guy wherever you visited just wanted to get the money out of your pocket.
yeah,
Like, because they know you're an idiot,
yeah,
right? Like, period, period. Okay, so like they come down and they like they get taken advantage of, and I've had to suffer a little bit of that, but not from the case that I'm seeing this wise thing. I just happen to trust people for their word, so
yeah.
there's a whole different road we can go down with that. But um, where was I going with this? I got derailed there. We were talking about
Uh,
Justin
we,
Trudeau,
yeah, yeah.
with this Muslims thing. So like, you act like you're this friend of everybody, and that obviously the culture. Like Trudeau's a Catholic. Well, he had to be a confirmed Catholic. He's from
Yeah,
Quebec, and he's saying like, oh, the Muslims are all this loving, peaceful place, and of course, like the majority of them are, right? Like
yeah.
it's
For
the
sure.
majority of human beings are that way. But then when something that they are against in his agenda, well, they're not intelligent enough to make their own decisions
They're
that
just
they're
following
against.
misinformation against the far
Yeah,
right.
because
Yeah,
it's the far right that's manipulated their brains, obviously, because it's the Christianity is just so bad. Like, and the people that buy into that, every time I start to feel like things are turning around, right? Things are turning around. People are starting to wake up. People are starting to figure out that okay, there's something inherently, and I really hope that people really take a look into the comparisons of the reviews of Cuties and the reviews of Sound
oh
of
yeah,
Freedom and start to
I
connect the
have. Yeah,
dots.
I've connected.
And well, you connected the dots a long time ago,
Oh yeah.
but I really hope that a lot of people, but every time I start to get hope, I open up Twitter and I lose
You lose,
all faith. All faith.
lose all faith.
Right? Like,
And the one of the things, like you said a couple of sentences ago that I found was very important was that Canadians are so arrogant, right? And one of the things I see it in is I'm a huge admirer of America. That's why I put an American flag up in my gym, right?
Hmm.
I'm an admirer of America um, for many reasons. Uh, Second Amendment being one of them. Uh, Arguably freedom of speech, which we don't think exists so much right now, but
It doesn't at all.
it doesn't. But my point being was Canadians are the first to judge Americans. They're first
Hmm.
to call them stupid, to say they're ridiculous, their ideals, their thoughts on guns, their thoughts on Christianity, their thoughts on abortion, their thoughts on this, the fighting, the riots, all of this. Canadians are the first ones to talk shit about America. But what Canadians don't realize is without America, there is no Canada, right?
No.
We don't have a nuclear program, for example. Like we are completely reliant on the
Well,
fact that
we could if we wanted.
we
Canada has the
could, but we
technology,
don't. We don't.
but we don't.
We
Yeah,
are
and
if
I respect that. Like,
yeah if fuck it, I want the nukes here. If Putin decided he wanted to throw some fucking nukes, we couldn't do shit about it. We couldn't do shit. We rely heavily on the U.S. Not
if
only
Putin
just for
sent troops after Canada, we couldn't do
we couldn't do
shit
shit
about it.
about it, right? Our
And don't forget,
mil-
Canadians forget that Russia's its neighbor.
yeah, literally, its neighbor. It's right there, right?
Yeah,
And then, but we
we
couldn't do
border
anything.
Russia.
We trade with them. We take their culture, everything that we have in terms of television shows, Canada Next Top Model. It's all a fucking copy of American culture, and we just bring
Canada's
it over.
America's hat. It's America's
Yeah,
hat.
and so we're the first ones to criticize them, but we're also the first ones to take everything from them. And I think like that was one of the biggest things that you said. We're arrogant. We're like we're no better than America. Canada likes to think we're some moral high ground better. We're no fucking better. In fact, I
And
think we
the
might be
funny
worse
thing
off.
is that the arrogant people are the people who label themselves as leftists because
Yeah,
they have to put everybody in a box. Living down here, um, the most the most benevolent people, the people who donate the most to Belize, they're all what would be classified as far right.
yeah,
These are wealthy. I have a lot of very wealthy friends here, um, who like they donate their time, money to schools, they volunteer, they do all this stuff because these people are also they're also mostly Christians as well, right?
yeah,
And some are agnostic, but it doesn't matter. It's a very Christian culture here. Amazing. It's amazing the amount of white supremacy from the Christian culture here, given that it's a Creole and
yeah,
Garfuna and Latino country. Like,
yeah,
it's hilarious, right?
yeah,
Like, this country is yeah, I live in the whitest area of the country. I live just outside of the Mennonite colony. Um, and but the thing is I live in a little Spanish village. Like, it's crazy. Like, this village I'm in, they don't even speak English. It's an
yeah,
English speaking culture, right? But the reason I'm up here is it's the most developed part of the country, right? It's easy to access everything.
things that you need. Yeah,
And there's playgrounds and there's churches and there's all these things here that like it's this and it's this area of the country that develops the rest of the country,
yeah,
right? Like it spreads out from where from, and like all these Belizean owned companies that are getting really good in the bigger cities, they're all ones that kind of broke off of the Mennonite companies, right? So
yeah,
um and it's a pretty wonderful place. Now, I like from that way. So when I talk about Canadian arrogance, it's these people, they have to put everybody in a box, and it's like I have to be this way, and it's amazing. Like, we are brainwashed that way. So like I do notice I'm more careful around people I just meet who are, let's say, a Garfuna, right? And like that's
yeah,
like it's an African culture, like they're black, right? Like they're
yeah.
really dark, right?
Dark is night,
And
black. Yeah,
I'm always very careful when I interact with them because a couple of reasons. One is the brainwashing from Canada, so we always there is that little bit of white guilt that we all kind of feel that's been put into our culture
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, man, I'm still waiting for my reparations from the Italians for holding. I'm from my lineage comes from Gaul, man.
Yeah.
I was like my family was must have been enslaved by the Romans, right? So,
Yeah.
and also probably by other cultures around as well, right? But anyway, that's a whole different topic. But
Yeah.
anyway, I noticed it myself. I'm extra careful, right? And it's okay to be. This isn't my country, right? Like it's I need to be respectful, but it's almost racist in the way that you're so careful. So if one of them's being a fuckhead, you got to feel open to say like you're being a
Yeah. Exactly.
fuckhead, right? Right? Like
Yeah.
you
So
can't be
if
like
it,
I can't.
yeah, you
Go ahead.
can't, you can't. If somebody's being a dick, no matter where you are, you got to call them out for being a dick,
And
right?
and yeah, well, let's go a little bit down this road. So a week ago, okay, a week ago, it's happened a bunch of times here, but I'm going to give an example. I was the victim of blatant racism, blatant racism.
Yeah.
Okay, I was running a class where one of the places I run a class, and this woman comes in. There's another group that comes in to do some training, ironically, a tour guide training, and she comes in and she's like, "You have to leave." Like I pay to be there. And I know like this group is a priority, so like we work around them sometimes. And I've never
Yeah.
seen this woman before. And I've been since they've been started, it's like a 6 month program that they do. And so for that program, I have to move my hours around a little bit. So um anyway, they come in. She comes in and she's like, "You have to leave." I'm like, "No, I've got the place till 6 o'clock." "Well, I have to set up." It's like, "You'll be fine. Like we're gonna actually be wrapping up early tonight. We're gonna be
Yeah.
done at probably 20 after, right?" Very good looking woman, by the way, too. So like me being a man and I love women and like she's very pretty and she would have just been nice and be like, "Yeah, can you help me set up?" Like, "Oh, no problem." Even if she wasn't pretty, I don't care. She was just nice,
Yeah.
right? Like,
You would have been a decent human being and been like, okay,
yeah, it would have
let's
just
do this.
been, yeah, we'll help you. Like we're leaving early. I got nothing else to do. I'll help you set up, right? But instead, like she comes, "Why do you have to lie?" Like comes at me like 0 to 100, like bam. "Why do you have to be a liar?" I'm like, "I'm not lying. What are you talking about?" If any
Yeah.
of the guys who are usually there who do the course who are sitting outside while I'm teaching, they'd be like, "This guy's here all the time. Like, we're never late to set up, right?" She
Yeah.
comes in, "This is why nobody likes you." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Nobody likes me? Like, you're not talking about me. Like, people like me. You don't even know me.
Yeah.
You're saying that because I'm white." And she says, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, that's why nobody likes you." It's like, wow. Like, I said to her, like, "Do you know how racist you sound right now?" And she's doing a tour
Yeah.
guide course. It's like, you you got to be careful, girl. Like,
Yeah.
like this doesn't look good. But if the shoe's on the other foot, it's absolutely horrible. But and for me, it's like, I blew it off, and I'm just like, man, like that's not that just wasn't cool. We wrapped up. I
Yeah.
was pissed off. Like, of course I'm pissed off, right?
Yeah.
And I have no power, right? At this point, like, what am I gonna do? Raise a big stink? Like, no, I'm gonna get shit for that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna and like social shit. I don't want social shit, so whatever. I just wrap up my stuff. I know the people in the village and stuff. They don't know I'm fine, right? Wrap up our stuff, and well, I wished her to have a wonderful evening when I left.
And then you just went
And
away.
and it's crazy how up in Canada, like it's like you have to feel guilty about everything that you do. Like Canada it was an amazing country.
Was.
Like my
That's,
family,
yeah.
part of my heritage landed on the second boat from France in 1687 from France. And they built from nothing into an incredible country. And it's being torn apart from inside. Like Yuri Bezmenov, you're familiar with
Yeah.
Yuri
Yeah. Yeah.
Bezmenov, right? He said it perfectly back in the subversion of nations, and you see it happening right in front. Like you just got to feel bad about being a Canadian. Like, of course, Canada's done some things that aren't right, just like the U.S. And
Questionable.
you
Yeah.
brought up the U.S., right? However, like no, every human on this planet. That's the problem. This is why, like, when you watch a movie, you're okay to watch 1,000 people get slaughtered, and if one dog dies, you never watch a movie again, right?
Yeah. Well,
Like it's because the dog is being
everyone
a
loves to
dog, and
watch.
people,
Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, but the dog's just being a dog, and you always feel bad in your attachment. But humans are inherently flawed,
Yeah.
right? Like we all have a dark side, and that's why that guilt isn't there. And like we're just allowing our country, Canada, just to be ripped apart. Now you work for the government that doesn't like you. Like the big reason we moved down here. How can I live in a country that is openly pushing that it hates my beautiful blonde-haired boy.
Yeah, exactly.
For
Right.
what? For
A-
being from a family that helped found the damn country,
And
right?
here's my thought on racism, and it's not going to be
It's
a fucking
tribalism. It's just humans.
it's not going to be a favorite of people who listen to me or whatever. But I don't care about it, right? So when I say that, I don't mean like I don't think it's wrong and people shouldn't do it, right? But growing up as a brown as a curry monster in Canada, right? There's uh yeah, I was exposed to it. People were racist to me. There's been certain incidents in my life. Like I'll quickly outline one where I was in a car accident on the highway, and my car was fucked, like totally fucked. But somehow it was still running, right? So I call my dad, and my
I
dad,
remember this. Yeah,
you remember the story, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Uh, my dad's like, well, if it's still running, drive it right to the mechanic, right? Because like there's no point. I'm like, okay. So I'm driving it. My hood's all fucked. Um, I'm
Well, that's the
literally,
car that you already had to like strap your hood down on
yeah,
anyway, I think.
yeah. My good old 1998 Honda Accord, right?
Yeah.
And this was like right after I bought it, so it's not like that was my only $2,000, right? So like my car got fucked. Um, it was a simple fender bender, but because of the weather and Canada's cold, metal just crunched, right? I'm one block away from the mechanic's place, and I get surrounded by cop cars, like surrounded. And at first, I'm like, what the fuck did I do? Like, I was in an accident here. Like, I'm not a perpetrator or a victim, right? I exchanged information with the other person, and their car had no damage. My car had all the damage, right? Um, so I got surrounded, and I pulled down the window. I'm like, what's going on? They said that an accident had occurred in the area with a car fitting my description that was involved in a hit and run. So they're accusing me of now being the car that ran from the accident, right? So I'm sitting there for a long time, and like my car's fucked. So there's no heat coming in. I like it's middle of February, winter. I'm freezing. My dad catches up with me. He's pulled his car over. He's coming to try to talk to me. The police officer tells my dad, if you come any closer, we'll arrest you for obstruction, right? My dad's an old fucking brown guy. Like don't talk to my dad like that. Like he's just trying to help his son. They were. I gave them my story. Said this is what happened. Here's the girl that I hit on the highway by accident. Here's her number, her information. This is exactly what happened. So I gave them that information. They're like, "Oh, I can hear them." You know when you can hear them talking in the radio? They're like, "Oh, he's fucking lying. We're gonna arrest this guy." That's what they're saying, right? So they call the girl, they confirm my story, but they still think I'm lying. It wasn't until they drove the other girl that was in the hit and run, by me, and she looks at me and says, "No, that's not him." Where they're like, "Okay, we'll let you go now." But they didn't just let me go. They took my car, they impounded it, they drove it to the impound, and they
Well, it
impounded it.
probably
Even
wasn't road friendly at that point.
yeah, but the thing was, my mechanic had sent his tow truck. So his
Mm.
tow truck was trying to get in, but they said no, we have to tow it with our truck. It's going to be impounded. So I had the most miserable night of my life, and I didn't think anything of not none of my life, but of my life at that point. I didn't think anything of it, right? And then as I'm sitting in my bed that night when I got home, I realized the only reason they let me go was because the girl, or the only reason this happened, where they stopped me like that, was because I was a man of color and the girl in the car was white, right? It was a white girl, and the cops saw her, and when she said no, like they didn't believe me. They didn't believe my story, but it wasn't until she confirmed that it was. And there's more to go along that story. I don't want to get, but that was it. And I could have sat there and been like, "Oh, this is racism. They profiled me, and whatever." And at the end of the day, I didn't care. I just went on with my life and I lived my life. And I've had tons of racist shit happen and names called at me. And Becky was there for a few of them where they're calling me names. And there's always going to be shitty people. There's always gonna be
Yeah,
racist people who
that's yeah.
that judge. The moral of why I said the story is there's always gonna be shitty people. There's gonna be shitty cops. There's gonna be shitty human beings. There's gonna be shitty bosses. There's gonna be people who always judge you by the color of your skin. But there's always gonna be that. So why the fuck do I have to care? I don't care. If I cared about everybody who was a racist prejudice, you know how fucking depressed I'd be. I wouldn't be able to wake up in the
Yeah.
morning because everyone, you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
when I
in that
say I don't,
situation, go ahead,
so when
sorry.
I say I don't care about racism, I don't care about it because it doesn't affect me. If you want to be a racist dick, go ahead, be a racist dick.
Yeah.
I'm not
And
gonna be
see,
one back.
and that's where people have lost their way a lot. Like in your
Yeah,
situation with the accident, I don't know if that was entirely racism. I think the white woman holds a lot of power,
yes,
right? I
that
think if
that's
that was a
that's
white
when I
if that was a white dude, I think the same thing may have happened,
yeah
right? It's just weird, and that's true, right? And so it was racist and sexist in a way too. Like if you were a female, a brown female, maybe it wouldn't have been the same,
yeah
right? They wouldn't have been as aggressive, but you're also a big, intimidating looking guy too, right?
yeah.
Even though you wear the darky sunglasses, your glasses and stuff. But the
Now I gotta take them
but
off.
this is where they lose their way. This is where like, and they approve censorship for this hate speech and all this. But they've lost their way, and that's what I like about Elon Musk with Twitter is just let people blow it off, right? Because like when someone is being just a complete jackass, like an ass, that message, it makes them look bad and they get rejected. Like me, what happened to me in Placentia, and it's not the first time something like that's happened to me here. It's like I just blow it up. Like I accept them like this isn't the country I'm from, right? Like people think that only the US and Canada and European countries treat immigrants a bad way. It's like, no, human
Yeah,
beings are naturally tribal, right? When you see someone that looks different, you're going to be suspicious of them, and that's natural. And if you just accept that, that's fine. But and then on top of that, and and as familiarity comes, so does the fears and all the myths, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, and 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 then you still have shitty people. You're always going to have shitty people, right? So, um, I lost
Yeah,
my
but my
my.
point being is
Go ahead.
like what they're trying to say is like we have to suppress the speech. There's always going to be it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's where we were. Yeah.
You're never going to get rid of it, and
Well,
it's
and
this
let the speech run because it
yeah,
points out who the problem
it's this utopian attitude that we're going to come to this utopia where everyone's going to be all fucking kumbaya and
is.
living
Never gonna
and
happen.
shaking hands. It's never going to fucking happen. There's always going to be some dick who judges somebody because they're black. There's going to be some dick who judges someone because they're white. There's going to be some colored person who's a fucking asshole to white people because they think they are owed something. There's always going to
Shit.
be that.
I
Yeah.
live in I live like I said, I live in a Mennonite community. I'm just outside of, and I get judged for my tattoos.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you guys really think that God cares what you put on your animal body, like, and
No.
that He wants you to have to wear all that sort of like, it's like if you believe that, that's fine. You can believe that, but I don't. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to any terrible place because I have
And
the
then
Vikings logo on my arm and an Iron Man logo on my other arm. Like,
yeah.
this is just my animal body and spirit, right? But so
Speaking of tattoos, I'm thinking about breaking my tattoo virginity now and getting one, but I have to find one that inspires me. Like I wouldn't say against tattoos, but the way I was raised, it's like there's nobody in my immediate family who has tattoos, right? Like my wife does, but like for me, it's like, fuck, I don't know if I want that on my skin. But like now to commemorate like, my achievements and my black belt and stuff. But the problem is everyone I see of like a jiu-jitsu one, they're fucking terrible. So I have to find a cool artist to make one that actually makes me want to do it on my skin. Because like the ones that I've looked up on Google, they're fucking hideous. Like some of the things that people put on their skin for like to commemorate like their martial arts, Jesus Christ, it's terrible. So I have to find a good artist, but I will do it eventually. It's just like I've come up in my head that I'm gonna do a fucking tattoo. It's just I have to get inspired by a good piece to want to put on my skin at this point. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Uh,
um and then as we talk about Canada when I said I didn't want to live there. So I talked about taxes, right? How ridiculous the taxes are,
Yeah,
how much you
because
have
that
to
was
work.
another thing I wanted to talk to you about was the debt that we're incurring, and
Oh man. And you're encouraged to get the debt. That's where we have to go flying off the rails here and bring up like 2030 agenda and stuff like that. Like you
yeah,
are encouraged. Like Justin Trudeau, like in 2020 when he said, now's the time, interest rates are low, get get you know take loans
Get
out, do all this stuff. Like,
get
I'm
vaccinated.
sorry. That was, yeah, well, that's a different story. But I'm talking about early in 2020, like
Yeah,
around, you know, he's still wearing his coat. So it's around, I don't know, April, maybe late April. And
yeah,
he's saying, like, oh, get the loans, help your business stay open. I remember getting business loan offers, and I'm like, you chicken hawks. I'm not taking your freaking loan right now just because to do for like, get out of here. Right. And, um, and then one of the reporters asked, well, what happens when interest rates go up? And he said, well, you notice how low interest rates are right now? It's like, yeah, but what does that have to do with interest? Like, if you couldn't see all the money printing happening in 2020, and you don't understand, and this is part of the education system being junk, you don't
yeah,
understand that when inflation happens not when the prices go up. Inflation happens when the money's printed.
yeah,
It's a delayed effect when you actually start to see it. So the money gets printed. I said this in the first interview we did. Right? As interest rates go up, right? Like those interest rates go up, or sorry, inflation goes up. The only way to stop it is you have to decrease demand by smacking them with high interest, right? So that
yeah.
you can curve that. And that's why interest goes up. So now interest rates go up high. So all these people buying houses, like I said, this and it's come true.
Yeah,
It just hasn't.
we talked about that
Yeah,
before. Yeah.
it
Uh,
completely hasn't happened yet. It will though,
well,
with all this immigration and stuff.
I know examples of it right now. I have a family member of mine, their neighbor bought their house maybe a year ago, a year and a half ago, and you like they have bad spending habits from what I'm told. Like they shop frivolously, they buy stuff, but that's besides the point. Um, when they committed to buying this home, they were saying, okay, we make this amount, we could pay this off, we can manage our mortgage. Now they're at the point where their variable rate has gone up so high they can barely afford to live, and that's not just them. That's I think a report came out a couple of weeks ago. 51 or 52% of Canadians are $200 or $300 away from not being able to pay their bills. Like, think about that. When
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's the same in the US. For
Yeah,
every dollar that a Canadian makes on average, they owe $1.75.
yeah, and like
That can't be sustained.
no wait, like when you think about like from the 50s and the 40s to now, wages have gone substantially up. Like people are making more money now than
They
ever.
haven't gone up though in they haven't gone up with inflation
With
though,
respect to
unfortunately.
inflation, though, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I mean.
The
Like
wages have stagnated beyond.
so like that's part of the problem with the brainwashing of the program. Like we've been taught, okay, you're making more money now than ever, but the things that you like to do cost more. So like simple cost averaging, you realize, well, fuck, I'm not making shit, right? And I have to
Yeah.
explain this to the kids in my gym a lot because they're a lot of them are a little ignorant when it comes to certain things. But one of the things that I say a lot is like, okay, when you go to your job, right? Do they pay you like with cash or is it direct deposit? Like, oh, it's direct deposit. It goes right into my bank account. So I tell them, I'm like, so you never see your money then? Like, what the fuck do you mean, coach? I always see my money. I'm like, no, so you never have money. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, and then you slowly explain how banks work to this kid, and they're like, what the fuck? So my money's gone? I'm like, yeah. That's why do you think if you had $100,000 in your bank account in Canada and you said I want to go take my $100,000 out, they're not gonna give it to you.
Nope.
You can't just get it. It's fucking gone. It's loaned. They've bought assets that are making them 20, 30, 40% more money with your money. They're not going to give you your money back. You're going to have to go through six different meetings with six different branch managers to get your money back. People don't understand
Even
that.
even when you deposit it. So just before I left, I had a significant amount of cash. Um, I had to deposit into my bank because I obviously didn't want to bring it here.
Yeah.
Um, I had a significant amount of cash, and as soon as it's like all the alarm bell. They treat you like a criminal. Like the manager
Mhm.
comes up and is like, "Oh,
How'd you get all this cash?
what? Yeah,
Yeah.
did you get all this cash?" I'm like, "I sold drugs. What do you care?" Right? Like I was like pissed. I
Just
was
put it in the
pissed off.
fucking
I'm
bank.
like,
Yeah.
"Put it in the damn bank." So, well, he knew of me, right? So he's like, "Well, I know you
Yeah.
didn't do that." Well, I was like, "What does it matter? I mean, this is my cash. This is
Yeah.
Canadian legal tender. Well, we need to know because we have to report it with I got a couple stories about this. We have to report it with the banks because they're going to ask like, why is it coming in? It's like, so what? If I pay
Yeah,
my taxes, it doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. It's my fucking
And
money.
they
I want.
they wouldn't take the money. I was like, I sold my gym equipment, right? So it's when we sold our
Yeah, yeah,
24-hour gym during COVID. I sold my gym equipment, and then they make you feel like a criminal.
yeah,
And then let's talk crypto because I do a lot of crypto, and I've been kicked out of a couple of wallets
yeah,
th for no reason because I do well. What I do is I use an unregulated wallet when I buy crypto and stuff. And then when I want to liquidate it into fiat, I send it to one of my Canadian wallets and go.
yeah,
And then there's a one in the UK that I like to use that I did. I don't use it anymore because I got booted out of two wallets. I can't use it anymore. I'd send it there and then they kick me out.
yeah. Well,
No,
they
no
can't
reason
control.
given. Yeah, because
If
they
they
want you to, but if I
they can't
convert
control
all
you.
my, yeah, but if I convert all my, like, in order to spend my crypto, I have to convert it to fiat pretty much. Like, there's other
Yeah,
ways you could do it, but it's just, honestly, I don't feel like putting in that much effort. Just get it in my bank,
yeah,
right? So if I have to convert it through, what I like, because I go through, I hate that I got booted out of those wallets because when I have to do my taxes, I use those wallets,
yeah,
right? So I could see all the transactions. Okay, now I have to report that, and the government gets paid,
yeah.
right? Like, and I'm not talking like thousands and thousands of
No,
dollars. I'm just
it's
talking a couple thousand
whatever
dollars here, a couple
whatever you
thousand
make.
dollars there. I'm not like a crypto billionaire, like or million. I'm not. I'm barely a crypto thousandaire, right? Right. I just get lucky a couple times, you know. Oh, I
Yeah,
bought that Bitcoin like a year ago, and oh, look, it went back up, right? I had
yeah.
$100, now it's 350. Okay, boom, send it, right? But um, anyway, like they make you feel like a crook because they don't want you making money, right?
Yeah.
Like they want to keep you there. That's only for them, right?
Well,
Like, and that's the
and then the other thing is now that I get to coach a lot of different age groups and so to speak, so I get to work with a lot of these teenagers, high school, etc. You know, some of these guys are going off to university and they know nothing about money, nothing, right?
no.
And I probe questions and ask what's going on in school and what they're teaching, and they know nothing about how to actually manage money. They know nothing about how money works. They know nothing about any of that. All they know is that they're supposed to go to school so that they can get a job, right? And I don't think it's a popular opinion um, among some other parents and people who talk to me. But I tell them, I'm like, if I could go back to my 17-year-old, 16-year-old self, I don't think I would have went to school. They want to tell them, they want me to tell their kid that you have to go to school to get an
Yeah.
education, and so and as a leader, I accept the role that I have that responsibility now. But I'm not going to tell them and lie to them. I'm not, and I say, you know what, you need to make decisions the best for you. But if I was to redo my entire life, I, I'm happy with the choices I made because I'm happy with my life is pretty damn fucking awesome right now. Like it's 2 o'clock on a fucking Thursday and we're talking shit on the internet. Like how bad can my life be, right?
Mhm.
But if I was to redo it, no, I would not go to university. I could have got the same education online if I wanted to, but I can't get those 4 years back. And right now, all I can think about is if I had those 4 years back, how much more I would have had to do and the things I love to do a lot earlier. Because I'm not saying my education was worthless, but it wasn't mandatory. I could have
No.
done all the same things that I did in my life right now without that education and probably been further along. So in some ways, I regret going to school, and that's not something people want to hear. That's not something what the institutions want to hear. They don't want people who are in a successful role influencing other people, telling them that you shouldn't be going to these institutions. But that's just it's straight up how I feel. Like I give this example all the time. If you're 16 years old and all you want to do is bake cupcakes, right? Instead of going to fucking university, maybe take a couple culinary courses, become a really good fucking baker, and bake cupcakes. And just be the
Yep.
best at it. And be fucking
Yep.
happy baking cupcakes. And guess what? You might not make any money between 17 to 21 years old, but eventually people will be like, yo, this this motherfucker over here makes the best cupcakes. Go fucking eat his cupcakes, and then you can start charging $20 for a cupcake. People fucking buy it, right?
Yep.
And
And the
when
same
you
people buying your $20 cupcakes don't understand money. They went to school, they got all that done, they have massive student debts, they drive a BMW, live in a beautiful condo, have a massive debt, and while you're living in a probably just a little humble house or an apartment because you
yeah
put everything into your business, and you're driving a shitty car, you got way more money than they do,
yeah exactly, and
right? Like the
so
yeah,
and I'm sure you're in this role too, but like these people want me to tell these young people that it's okay to just go to fucking school and listen to everybody and get a good job. I'm like, no, like do what you love to do. If you're going to school, one of the things that bugs me is undeclared. Like if you're going to fucking university undeclared, you're wasting your fucking time. I'm sorry. Stop wasting time. Figure out what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, take a
most kids
year
just
off.
go to school because they're supposed to go to school. That's it. It,
Yeah,
it
you're just
fuels
going.
the
It,
education industrial complex, if you want to call it
yeah,
that.
and you're going to school undeclared, you're wasting your fucking time. Like, just take a year off, figure out what you want to do, and then go to, if say you needed to become a doctor, yeah, you got to go to fucking school, right? But like, that's one of the biggest pet peeves I have with this whole system and this. They feed these kids these lines that this you have to be part of this education system in order to become successful, and that's 100% not true.
Well, outside of being like a medical doctor or an engineer or an accountant, I mean, there's a couple other professions.
Yeah,
Outside of those professions, what is the difference between an A student and a C student?
not much, not
Do you
much.
know what the act? It's an A student shows that they're good at following the rules.
Yeah,
A C student doesn't necessarily follow the rules. Now, who makes up the entrepreneurs of the world?
C students.
C students make up the entrepreneurs of the world,
Yeah,
not the A students, right? Like it's crazy. Like it's not crazy to say because we talk about it all the time. It's like it's everything is bullshit, right? Like if I'm going to be a doctor, yeah, I want to have, or if I have a doctor working, I want him to be an A student because I don't want him to like have to look for where my lungs are when
yeah.
it's time to operate
Just,
on me.
just
Like,
a minute, sir. I gotta open my. Oh, okay, right there. Okay, right. Oh
well,
fuck, I took
shit,
the wrong spot.
that
Yeah,
actually happened to me once. It wasn't surgery, but it was. I was at my doctor's office. I had hurt. Something was injured on me. I went to my family doctor.
yeah,
And he gets up, stands up, looks at the wall. There's that
yeah.
musculoskeletal picture on the wall, right? And he goes, okay, it's that muscle probably there. So sits down, writes it down, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna send you to go see this guy. Or he made me an X-ray,
Yeah.
like it's something, right? It's like, are you serious? Like you didn't even know the name of the muscle that I probably pulled, right?
You wrote it down off the fucking wall and then sent you to a special.
Like he literally got up and looked at it, right?
Uh,
And so it's like, well, maybe at least he's a family doctor, not
yeah,
doing
yeah,
surgeries, right?
but
But other than
still,
that case, but that's what ends up happening, right? Like,
yeah,
um, I in high school, I had good marks and bad marks. The things I liked, I'd get good marks at. The things I didn't like, I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to pass, right?
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that whole thing you're talking about with the kids, I remember when I was running Vision, one of the parents came because I would always be open with the kids and say, listen, I
yeah,
hated school, but I loved university. 100% true, right? I had a great time at university. Yeah, I have a history degree. And people would say like, well, you teach martial arts, you're a trainer, but you teach history. It's like, well, you know, or you took history. What's that have to do with it? Well, I learned critical thinking.
yeah,
And I learned this is why I see Canada the way I see it, because exactly what I studied is what I see happening, like all the
yeah,
way down to the propaganda. And um, I would never turn my history degree away because I went to school for an education, and then I got pissed after I got my postgrad and being like I couldn't find a job because I got
yeah.
public relations as a postgrad, which was great. I can write fantastic. My public speaking is really good, but the problem is I could never be a propagandist. That's
No,
basically what I took with pop.
yeah,
And it's funny because I was actually thinking of this last week. So I remember when I was choosing a postgrad course, and I'm like, I like journalism. You know, it's, I mean, I should look into journalism. And then public relations pops up, right? And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. It's like journalism on a different level. And then I read all the things about the future. And this is like 29 or 20, 29. This is like 1999, 2000 time, right?
Yeah,
They're like, oh,
you're
this is
old
going
as
to be a
fuck. So
massive industry. It's going to be huge. Like this, the public relations industry is going to be one of the fastest growing. And I was like, I just couldn't see it because I didn't fully understand it. Holy
yeah,
shit, look at now, right? There's not even journalists anymore. They're all
no,
PR people.
it's all PR.
All that
It's
the
all
news
PR.
stations are is public relations stations for
Yep.
the powers that be.
Well,
They're
that's what I call.
essentially for the
That's
last
what I
3 years.
call.
For the last 3 years, they've been propaganda are like public relations stations
Uh,
for Pfizer.
so this is another thing for Canadians. So you never notice when you walk in, and especially in Toronto, and walk in any establishment, and all you see is CP24, constant propaganda 24. It's just being fed to them all
They were
fucking
seeing that
day.
at the hotel I was at.
You're waiting for your car to be fixed. Constant propaganda 24. You're sitting at a fucking restaurant eating your breakfast. All it is that, and it's all PR. So it's like a, that's all it is, right?
Yeah, yeah, and they got all
And
the million fear and everything running around. Red
one
march
of
with the.
tying into that, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was this. There's been a, and this is more along the lines of what we like to do, and I could probably use some of my fucking the soundboard shit when we talk about this now. Oh, I've been waiting to, but okay, so Mark Zuckerberg fucking just got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Now, as somebody who's promoting people and handing them out and all that stuff, um, I'm observing this trend in jiu-jitsu now and martial arts in general, but more jiu-jitsu than anything because when I was coming up, getting a blue belt was a task. Like that was like your breaking point in jiu-jitsu. Like you're now committed to this thing. Like you're gonna. This is. It was for me. Blue belt was the hardest belt to get. And I tell this to all my students when they come into the gym. I'm like, you're gonna go through life and you're gonna go through a bunch of shit. There's like only a select few things I remember. I remember when I got married. I remember when I met my wife. I remember when I had both my kids. And I remember every one of my belts when I got them, right? Because they were that fucking incredibly hard to achieve. Um, Now there's this new phenomenon, and it's like it's obviously for profit in some aspects. Um, and then we've seen these celebrities getting them. There's a few of them that are legitimate, you know. Um, Tom Hardy, I respect him a lot. I see him as a legitimate purple belt because I actually watched his competitions, and I'm like, okay, he's putting in the effort. Russell Brand, not because I like him. He's a purple belt. I don't know under who, but he's not competitive. He's a recreational purple belt. So
Bet you he's
that
got
I
an
under
annoying guard. I bet he
right.
does. Yeah.
You know, I think Ashton Kutcher's a brown belt, legitimate brown belt. You know, Ed O'Neill's a legitimate black belt. We have legitimate celebrities with legitimate statuses, but now we're having other celebrities jumping into this thing and getting these ranks. And I had to tell my students this past week, I'm like, don't look at that as an example of what it's going to take to get your blue belt because you're not going to just get it like that guy. And is jiu-jitsu getting watered down now?
Um, I think I know you're a relatively new black belt. I think it always has been, not in every school, right?
Yeah,
I think it's up to the black belt to hold on. I mean, as a person who's promoted a lot of people, um, I'm very strict, and that's from my lineage. We have the same lineage,
yeah,
right? I'm very strict when it comes up. You can't hold the same bar for everybody because everybody's different,
no,
right? Now I look at it this way, like one thing that you have to avoid as a black belt is you have to avoid judging other schools'
yeah.
ranks. It's very tempting, right? Especially when
It,
you're in a
it
junior rank. Yeah, but hold on. You have to
yeah,
judge other schools' ranks and other black belts who promote it. But you have to stay out of that and stick to your own quality. Because one of the big things I always tell my students is that the rank isn't your, um, you can't look at it as your status.
Yeah.
You get that blue belt. Well, what's the hardest part of being a blue belt? It's dealing with hungry two stripe, three stripe, four stripe white belts. That's the
Yeah.
scary part because you don't want to get raked by those guys. It's a responsibility. Like, what's the hardest part of being a purple belt? You know those blue belts want you. To me, the purple was the hardest to achieve,
Yeah.
and they're they were all hard to achieve for me. But
They're
the
all hard.
but yeah, but the purple for me was the hardest. And it's like you get that purple belt, and the last thing you want is these like freaking blue belts just racing at you, right? Like they want
I
that
lost
purple
my
belt.
ACL for my purple belt. I tore my ACL that night. It's
Yeah.
fucked. Right?
The day you
But
got it, yeah.
yeah, that's why I tell everybody I remember the days I get my belts. I don't remember a lot of other shit, but I remember the days. Like that's how hard and difficult it should be. But like
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like yeah, I'm not
It's
criticizing.
is it getting would you say is it getting watered down? Like with popularity it does, but I think because here's like look at karate, right?
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of kids get to karate black belts in certain schools really quick, right? two
yeah, 10
years,
years old.
15 minutes, right? Like they get them fast. But there are some really badass karate studios out there,
Oh, for sure,
old
100%.
school ones, right?
Just like
They're
Taekwondo, there's a lot of badass Taekwondo fighters as well.
yeah, and they're few and far between as it got more and more popular because, I mean, the dollar corrupts too. I think jujitsu overall is going to hold on to its rank. Now, like you sent me that thing about Zuckerberg, and I looked it up, and I was like, that tournament he won. I'm like, come on, like that was really
Yeah,
bad. He got his blue belt right after that. I mean, that was really like, first of all, he pulled the guy in nogi, he pulled the guy's shirt, didn't
yeah,
even get a penalty for it, right? Like you
yeah. He
can't
held
like
his leggings too. He was holding his leggings as well.
yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah,
the guy at the end went for the arm hump arm bar, like he went belly down, but
yeah,
he was arm barring his arm this way,
yeah.
right? Like so I get it, it's white belt, but I mean we're from Ontario. Ontario level jiu-jitsu is like
It
world
was very
class.
high,
Like it's
very high.
very high.
Yeah,
Like it's crazy. And you don't see white belts because it's such a healthy environment in Ontario. Like you don't see white belts doing that
no,
or winning like like you see freaking four stripe white belts get about to get their blue. They're dangerous. Like they're good,
yeah. Well,
right?
like
Like
I have a guy. I'm not gonna say his name, but four stripe white belt. In any other place, he would be a blue belt. Any other place. Like I've been to a lot of places and trained, but there's some fundamental like it's kind of like you said. It's up to the instructor. There's some fundamental things that I tell them. I'm like, I want to see these things, and I'm like, you're there, but if you do these things, if you hold out a little bit longer, you work a little bit harder, and you get these tools in your tool belt, you're not just going to be a blue belt. You're going to be a phenomenal blue belt. I just don't want to give you a blue belt so you're in the middle of the road. Oh yeah, I just got the now I'm a blue belt. I want you when you get that thing, people to be afraid of the type of blue belt you are. And like in Ontario, that's the kind of
yeah,
blue belt I'm usually encountered with, right? Where
yep,
like I'll start rolling as a black belt. I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta take this guy seriously, right?
yep, yeah,
The
yeah.
the technique's not there, but I gotta take it seriously for about a minute and a half before I get you a little tired and I start schooling you. That's what a blue belt is to me.
Yep.
Now I'm seeing other people handing them out, and it is what it is. If that's the way you want to run your school, so be it. But that's how I was raised in the sport, and like to me, a purple belt should be giving black belts run for their money. That's how good I was raised when when we were coming up as purple belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's, I always explain it to people like it's the school structure, right?
Yeah.
A white belt's like elementary school, blue belt is like high school, which is actually perfect because they're the biggest pains in the asses in any school,
Yeah.
right? Just like high school kids. And then purple belt is your college. That's your college degree, right? Um, and then and you think about the school structure, I mean, it takes a lot longer to go from kindergarten to your college degree then from your college, university degree to your doctorate. Because brown
Yeah.
belt represents your master's, and black belt is your doctorate.
Yeah.
And um, it's like there is always the danger of being watered down, but I see it as like I've handed out people blue belts who, yeah, like I said, you can't hold them all to the same level,
No,
who
because there's competitive
were
students
not
and there's recreational students.
right, and who weren't the best quality blue belt, right? But they had been training for 3 years and they
They deserve
come
it.
to class all the time. They
Yeah.
contribute to the team. They're just a little bit jujitsu, like they're just a little bit slow in jujitsu. It doesn't work for their body, or maybe they have an injury, or they're older.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was handing out a blue belt to an older guy, like 60, and I was actually thinking, like, I wonder if the guys here are gonna like think like, why should he get it, right? And this made me really proud of my academy because he did really good at the grade. Like he was
Yeah.
schooling like younger white belts with like 1, 2 stripes. I didn't I protected him against like the 4 stripe hungry white belts who were looking for their blues as well.
Yeah.
But I put him with a couple older guys too, and he did really well. And when I gave him his blue belt, I was like, "Okay, come on up." Right? His name is Pat. I called him up, and my academy all went, yeah. Everyone was so
Yeah.
happy Pat got his blue belt. I was like, okay. And that I was still a young black belt at that time, right? So I was like, okay, how am I going to hear murmurs, right? But not a single murmur, not one
Yeah.
murmur. Like everyone was so happy, and like that's the environment you want at your academy. And just like when you hand out that guy his blue belt or purple belt who's just giving everybody headaches. I remember saying to a couple of people like, okay, I'm putting this belt on you, and now all the other purple belts now can breathe a sigh of relief because they don't
Yeah.
have to deal with you as a blue belt
Don't have to
anymore.
deal with you anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, but it's things like that, and yeah, you're seeing it happen with Zuckerberg, and it's just like
Well, what do you
he's
make of
like a
this
robot.
Elon? What do you make of this Elon Musk Zuckerberg bullshit fight that
Never
they're
bet
having?
against Elon Musk ever.
Oh,
Plus,
God. Oh,
uh,
okay. So when I heard that they're thinking of this is the first thing I did. I fucking laughed because it's first of all, as a fighter and a martial art, I find it insulting that they're making it seem like two fucking average Joes can just get up off the fucking couch and just train for a few months and do what we do after I've spent 15 plus years training my ass off, breaking my body to do it. That's the first thing. Secondly, I feel it's disrespectful to the current athletes who literally bust their ass to be perfectionists at their craft. Then you have these dickheads with a couple billions of dollars tweeting at each other that they want to fucking fight each other in a cage. And after watching Zuckerberg roll in that fucking, there's like, everyone's like, oh, I'd watch that. I'm like, they're gonna put it in the Coliseum? Are you kidding me? What the fuck are we even talking about? That's the
well,
rumor that they. Oh my
yeah,
gosh!
well, let's step back for a sec, right? First of all,
No, it's fucking
remember,
ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
it's two guys at the same level, right? Like,
I know.
I don't think like as far as this, like if they're both training in martial arts, there's no disrespect to these two guys fighting, right? It's not like Elon saying, I'm gonna take on, you know, I'm gonna fight John Jones, right? Like he's talking about Mark Zuckerberg, right? And
I know, but
and
still,
like
still,
these are two guys who they if it gets Elon in, well, Elon's been into BJJ for a while because his kids have been doing it, right?
yeah. But
So
look at
um,
Elon. Look at his
um
body. He's a brick. He's shaped like a brick, like
yeah, those guys, I
that.
hate grappling against those guys. That's the worst body type to deal with for me
Fuck, he's
as a
shaped
long
like a
skinny
brick.
guy. Those
Yeah,
brick
yeah,
guys are
but
tough to deal with.
there's no athletic bone in that guy's fucking body. He's smart as balls, but
Yeah, well, which is funny because think of that guy in jujitsu who if you actually fight him, bring out the punches, like he's gonna
yeah,
cry,
I
right?
know,
But
but
then,
like,
you're not allowed to throw punches, and he's not athletic at all. He's wimpy, and he kicks your ass because he's
okay,
so smart,
would you would you
right?
would you pay $50 to watch that shit?
Well, I own quite a few shares in Tesla, so I'd be pretty happy
Would
to
you?
watch Elon
No,
kick his
that's
ass.
not the
So.
fucking question. Would you pay $50 to watch two white belts try to fight each other in the Roman Colosseum?
What I for the comical value of the bad, I there's a thing I have. I love
Uh,
watching bad fights. I love watching bad fights. Like they are so fun to watch. So from that perspective, in a way, I'm kind of paying because I do have Tesla shares. So it's covering his, helping
if
cover his gym fees. But
if he gets fucked up, the shares are gonna go down the next day.
well, I think it's funny. I was joking with one of my students down here. Is like, well, Zuckerberg's probably going to miss reading the fine print because when
Yeah,
Elon shows up in the cage, it's going to be some fucking Tesla robot's going to walk in the cage. It's like, no, you're not fighting me. I see you signed to fight my robot, and then
yeah,
Tesla shares are going to go
skyrocketing.
because this robot kicks his ass. But
Unless the robot demo ends up like that fucking car that he did. Remember? Remember when he was trying to be like, "Oh, this thing is indestructible." He hits it with the window, and the window just breaks.
I didn't see that.
I'll send the video to you. It was they're fucking the car that they're releasing. I'm fucking this
Cybertruck?
up. Cybertruck. They had a demo, and he's like,
Mhm.
if you hit this thing, it's got like these windows, and this thing is indestructible. And he hits the car, and it fucking the window cracks. And he's like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, this my opinion of Cybertruck. It's going to make me a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
I think it's ridiculous. I don't want to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not giving those fuckheads my money. Just like I don't.
it,
I'm not gonna just like I'm not gonna pay money to watch Logan or Jake Paul fight in a fucking boxing match. Right?
well,
I'm not gonna do
there's a positive to it too, though. It does expose the sport,
it.
right? Like
Yes,
it
I
shows
get
people the
that.
sport, right? Like, and that's why they talk styles sometimes still too. They'll bring up like ever since GSP, every MMA fighter fights essentially the same way, right?
Yeah,
Like it's like because it's a formula, it's a sport. It's like yeah, there's guys who have different. The styles aren't as separate now as they once were, right? So like
no,
they're saying like, oh, this guy's a karate fighter, this guy's a wrestler. Well, they're trying to appeal to the wrestlers, they're trying to appeal to the karate guys, and they get in the cage and they fight almost the exact same style, right? Like
yeah,
but that's a sign of how positive the sport has moved forward, right? Like down here in Belize, when I moved here, I was like, I don't know. I think I'm done. I don't want to do anything anymore. And then
yeah,
I got the guys pulled me in, really nice guys. And I'm glad they did too. Like, um, I love the community around here. I like being on the kind of the outside looking in. Like, I don't get in the
yeah. You're not
trenches.
directly involved with it anymore.
Yeah, like I love ring announcing too. So I do the ring announcing and the commentary, and then I run my two schools and guys from all the schools. Um, like I have two affiliates, but the guys from other schools, they all come around and come and see me. It's always respectful. It's always fun, and I dig that. And I'm hoping that the day doesn't come where the rivalries get really heated, and it will though. Like
Yeah,
and then it'll calm down and it'll go up again. But right now it's kind of like in a nice sweet spot where everyone's just trying to get better, and and then still like coming from where I come from, it's they're here. They're kind of like Ontario in 2008, 2009, right?
yeah.
Like it's there, just like Canada
Before,
when BJJ really when Marcus got to Canada and BJJ started really taking off in like '97.
yeah,
Um, it's like where Canada in 2003 was 20 years behind Brazil, right? Like um, it's just the way it has to be. So when you look at things like Zuckerberg and Musk, like if they're training, that's good. It raises the profile of what we
yeah.
do, and like let's say like
I'm not
Musk.
saying I'm not happy that they're doing it and bringing notoriety to it. I'm just saying I'm not paying money to watch two fucking bums, but I can watch that on World Star Hip Hop. It's gonna last like a minute. There's no way those fucking guys are going 3 rounds. There's no way they're going 3 5-minute rounds at a high pace. They're gonna be dead by the end of the first fucking
Maybe Musk will expose Zuckerberg as the alien he is. Like his tentacles will come out of the back of his arms and start blinking the wrong way. He gets
round.
knocked out and he starts blinking the wrong way. Right?
I,
Uh,
I just find it ironic that like you go look at guys like Israel Adesanya, who was speaking out against communist fucks, and now he's taking pictures with a communist fuck, pretending like he's training with him and shit. It's hypocritical, in my opinion. But I,
Well, Zuckerberg's not really a communist. He's a power hungry fascist.
yeah,
That's what Zuckerberg is. Like there's that
same.
thing I saw a thread on because you know what Musk is doing with X.com, right? And there's a lot of
Yeah,
people kind of worried about that. And as again, I've actually because they're I was on WeChat. You know WeChat? You've heard about
yeah,
it?
yeah,
The
yeah,
Chinese all-in-one app.
yeah, yeah.
I was on WeChat because I had a Chinese student, a wonderful guy. He's a guy I actually blew my hamstring out on back in, which started my Ironman journey because that was how I started with my recovery. Man, by the way, a torn hamstring freaking hurts. Holy
Yeah, no
smokes, does
shit.
that
They
injury
took
ever hurt?
a piece of my fucking hamstring to put in my ACL.
Oh,
No,
when I tore
that's
that, like I can
the
imagine
only
that
benefit.
must be. Go ahead.
The only benefit that comes from that surgery, they used my hamstring tendon, is now I could throw wicked axe kicks. Okay, I couldn't do it before, but now
Yeah.
because they took the tendon, my hamstring is a lot looser than before, and now I can throw some wicked axes. But I couldn't do it before. That's the only benefit. Hamstring's
Yeah.
brutal. Hamstring's brutal.
Oh, that injury hurt so much. Like it popped and I fell backwards for like 10 feet, hit the wall and then just dropped. And it must be what it feels like to get shot in the back of the leg. Like that's, wow,
Yeah.
did that ever hurt? Right. So anyway, what was I saying with X.com. So Musk is doing X.com for an all an app. And then I see people from our side. So you have to watch out on both sides of the political spectrum. I mean, you have to make sure you don't get sucked into the things you don't like on the other side. So
Yeah.
from our side, they're like, oh, it's going to be an all-in-one app and it's all bad. He's going for China on this. He's being just like China. It's like, stop and read it. He compares it to WeChat and he talks about it like it's not going to be WeChat because it's free speech. We're pushing free speech. One of the big things that I like about Musk is that he talks always about he believes in it's like okay Justin Trudeau says we have to have this carbon tax and tax everything and shame you for doing all
Yeah.
this stupid shit, right? I would be classed into the group of climate deniers by these people living in condos running their ACs all day
Yep.
in Toronto with their windows open in their condos driving around in their BMW and stuff. Meanwhile
Eating
I live
packaged
on
food every fucking day.
I live off grid. I'm
Yeah.
100% solar. I catch rainwater for my showers and my
Fucking
water.
hippie.
All right. I
Fucking
do all
hippie.
this stuff. I bought a freaking third world country life on motorcycle to save gas, right? Like, get out of
Yeah.
here. Like those people are so hypocritical. That's the arrogance I'm talking about earlier, right? So
Yeah.
they think that they're doing everything so righteous and they're just fucking morons. But so what Elon talks about is like instead of having all these taxes, why don't you have faith in humanity that we see these problems
And we'll solve
and
them.
we're going to solve them,
Yeah.
right? And he takes the lead on that. So when he's talking about X.com, he's like, well, yeah, this is the nefarious way to use an all-in-one app, like how um, WeChat is used in China. He wants to use his app where people have free speech and the freedom. Why do you think he bought Dogecoin? Well, didn't buy
Yeah.
Dogecoin, but why do you think he's
No,
in
but yeah.
Dogecoin? Because he wants Dogecoin to be a free currency so you're not controlled by government fiat. So if you
Yeah.
can purchase stuff through Dogecoin on X.com and you could say whatever the fuck you want to anybody that you want, you're not getting punished by the government. You're not getting punished. You're operating in a true capitalist society through that there. And that is why Elon gets all these negative press from the establishment. Like it kills me how you get these lefties talking about the environment and they hate Elon Musk at the same time. Meanwhile,
They're
he's the
taking a
inventor of
fucking
Tesla.
jet, and they're taking a jet to all these conferences.
Yeah, and he's the one who runs the most popular electric car and the best electric car company in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Like,
like if you I know you're not here right now, but if you drive around Toronto right now, the Ontario government's put all these signs up saying the future's electric, right? And it might be, um, but when you consider the environmental damage that goes into making a lot of these electric things,
yeah,
and the fact that you need a power grid to support it, which we don't have, there's the future's not electric. The future is nowhere near that like we're so far away from that. It's not even funny, but they're pushing it like it's coming tomorrow. And
Yeah.
like when you think about the hazard that comes behind producing some of these things, like we're talking about earlier, we talked about the sound of freedom and sex trafficking and slavery. The fucking iPhone you use all the fucking time is made by probably a slave somewhere in China, and they
Yep.
put nets up outside the building because those motherfuckers jump out of it because they just want to commit suicide every fucking time. So like it's the same self righteous shit with the climate people and the it's the same stuff. I can't like
It's the tribal nature of humans again. Like
yeah.
with, it's they need to find a group. It's really hard to go against the grain, right? Look at
Oh,
what we went
100%.
through. Look what we went through for COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like one thing I liked about COVID is it really exposed people I can trust and people I can't trust.
Oh,
I
100%.
don't give a shit
100%.
if you got a jab or not. It's
No,
the
I don't
people who
care
are
either.
like, you don't deserve health care if
Yeah.
you didn't get the jab and you get sick. It's like, okay, well, do smokers not? Like, you got to watch the slippery slope you're going down here.
Well, it comes back to the same article. Remember, I don't know if you remember this one, the Toronto Star one, where they posted if on the front page, if you don't want to get jabbed, then you don't deserve an ER bed, and if
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
die, yeah. And,
yeah.
and we're like, what, 2 years gone by, and I'm not forgetting that, or I'll never forget that.
No.
I'll
And
never
can you
forget that.
believe that was published in Canada? And now
Yeah.
that all, and here's one of the things I noticed in Canada is, and I noticed this on Twitter and I noticed it on comments. That's the other thing. Like Canadians are dumbasses. They're always the first ones to comment on Twitter and because I don't I like I run I don't see the same stuff you guys see living down
Yeah.
here, right? Because I'm on a different internet provider. And when it comes to jabs and stuff, it's the Canadians who still come up. We're still in a pandemic, make sure you get your boosters and all this sort of stuff. It's like, and all of the narrative crap, like the
Yeah.
LGBT crap, all that stuff. The Canadians are at the forefront. When you see the dumbest comment about Ukraine or all this stuff, you see the dumbest comment, it's
From a Canadian.
almost always a Canadian. It's
Yeah.
like, guys, like, and you're the ones who try to trash on Americans. Like, yeah, Americans
Well,
have flaws too, but
well, like
man,
even this these forest fires that's been going on, right? Uh, the you better put a mask on. You got to wear a mask again. I saw some articles
that's
published
actually
last
kind
week.
of legit this time around
No, no,
because it
no,
does
no, no,
help. But
no. But no, no, I get that. But it's like one day, like the one day we have bad fucking air quality. Like shut the fuck
yeah,
up. Just don't go outside that day, right?
and I don't care if it makes
Um,
it look like I have a tinfoil hat. Those fires were started on purpose.
yeah. Oh, 100. No, they were. They're proven.
Yeah.
Half of them, like I can't give you a specific number
No,
because
I
I'm
saw
not
that
Joe.
video too. Everybody saw where they all start at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not
Like,
Joe Rogan, and I don't have a guy here with a fucking internet connection that's checking up articles for me. But I remember very correctly that in the ones that happened in Alberta, they've already proven that at least half of them were started by arson, right?
yeah.
But then you watch the stupid news, they're like, oh, and you interview people about the wildfires,
Oh,
oh
you
yeah,
watch the
climate
clown
change,
show of Parliament, and you
yeah,
deny climate change, and there's Trudeau up there being all Mr.
yeah,
Righteous, like,
yeah, and,
man,
and so those like but the narrative that they're trying to push now, which I don't see it catching on, it's not catching on, but you never know. I don't trust Canada. Um, the pushing that last week they published, I forgot which newspaper, it was a major newspaper. Is it safe to go outside now with the wildfires? Is it safe to
yeah,
breathe the air? I'm like, fuck you, go outside. You never
yeah.
sat next to a campfire before? Like, it's not that bad. Like, calm the fuck down. And they can, but they're pushing. It's like we've talked about this before. You're when you think life is good and you're not afraid of shit anymore, they try to push one thing in to make you scared again, right?
Yeah, and
So
it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like it's
yeah,
just gone in hyperdrive since COVID. It is the 2030 agenda that they're trying to get. Like these rural fires, like they're trying to get people in the cities.
yeah.
Like the 15-minute cities, they're trying to do all that stuff.
Oh,
Like
100%.
like when people are like, "Well, you're saying like this has to be all these." It doesn't take everyone in on it. It just takes a few people and a little poking to draw to push the people down the hill, right? Like it's there,
Well, like look at Doug Ford giving all these mayors strong mayor powers and starting to separate jurisdictions. Like they're separating Peel Region now. Mississauga and Brampton are going to be their own. They're not going to be the same.
Oh, they've
Uh,
broken from Toronto now. They're not part of Toronto anymore.
yeah, they're
Because
trying to get them to separate.
there's
So
Mike
like
Harris who made it a super city, and now they're
yeah,
taking it apart.
you think about why all of a sudden it's happening, and you know I'm going to go full on conspiracy and be like, yo, that's because when you separate these jurisdictions, you can now put up the borders for the 15-minute cities. It's plain
Yeah.
and simple. It's right
And they
there.
make it sound, and they butter it with the sweetest peanut butter, right? Like it's like, well,
Yeah,
think about a 15-minute city. You can get everything done within 15 minutes. That's efficient. That's fantastic. I think I might have Eric Swalwell. I hope that didn't pick up on
yeah.
the
No,
soundboard.
it's all
I
good.
don't know if you
No,
I don't know if you get what I just said there, but
yeah,
I move forward. And anyway, um, the as I say, like it does sound nice and convenient, right? Now, think of COVID, how they were trying to stop people in different countries when they were, you know, from traveling region to region, which they wanted to try in Ontario, but the police saved us in Ontario. The police
yeah,
said,
yeah.
no, we're not doing it. And, like it does sound great. Like, oh, this is awesome. Like I can get everything so convenient. And that's the problem. Like I said, with huge problem with Canadians, they worship the God of comfort. They won't sacrifice discomfort because
For
well, this is uncomfortable and I don't want to go against the grain. I'm just going to be comfortable here and shut my mouth.
yeah,
As like they get pushed into this neo-fascist society and um moving into 15-minute cities, yeah, like they don't want people out in nature. Like part of that 2030 agenda is with the fourth industrial revolution, which by the way is a way of just spreading that sweet peanut butter.
yeah,
Let's just call it the Fourth Reich.
yeah.
And the where's I going? They get them into the cities. You control the people here. They're not traveling around. And now this is where I was going. Is nature is free? So being, oh yeah, nature's out there. You're not allowed out in nature. You have
No,
to get social credit points and able to go out in nature, right? Like
yeah.
these ESG scores which is like when I brought up Tesla earlier, like Tesla ESG score. How is it that Tesla doesn't have like the best ESG score for all car companies?
Yeah,
You know what that is, right? Environment,
yeah,
social, governance,
yeah, yeah.
right? Like, but they don't because why? Because Musk doesn't follow he's
The
not
grain.
following the
Yeah,
narrative,
yeah,
right? Like, and this corporatocracy, which is just it's just an evolved version of fascism,
yeah.
is that's why I refer to it as neo-fascism. The corporatocracy, these corporations have all this power, and as these ESG scores come up, this is why Bud Light made that stupid decision back
I was about
back
to
in
say.
May, right? They're like, okay, we'll get this up, right? Like, and then the marketing manager, like, how stupid was that woman? Like,
Yeah.
how
Well,
stupid was that marketing manager? Well, let me talk for a second. She's got the rainbow and everything up there. She's got all the signals of all of the bullshit, and she says to them on camera, oh, our audience was fratty and immature. We wanted to appeal to a new, younger audience. You're a fucking beer company.
beer
You
company.
can't say that. You're
I
that
just wanted.
stupid that you
I just
just
wanted to
said
do.
that.
I just wanted to do this when I saw that clip. I just wanted to slap that bitch.
I love that soundboard. That's hilarious.
Right? So
Yeah.
I just wanted to, when I saw that, I'm like, who the fuck do you think's drinking your beer? It ain't. Anybody I've seen drinking Bud Light has been the white hick fucking from rural Ontario drinking fucking beer and
Or
watching
young
NASCAR.
university students and stuff
Yeah.
because
Who
it's
the fuck
cheap,
do you think? Why would you
right?
want to
It's
change that?
cheap.
Why, as a successful company, why in the fuck would you want to change that?
That,
I
by the
wouldn't
way,
want to change.
they had the best commercials on the planet
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
years, right? Like Bud
Um,
Light is
the was
legendary
up.
commercials.
They did the was up and all that kind of
Yeah,
shit, right? And
yeah.
then you got fucked when Kid Rock starts shooting your beer. That's how you know you get fucked. When Kid Rock starts fucking shooting your beer, that's when you know you fucked up. And then
Yeah.
um that country star, he just put out a song
Jason
saying that,
Aldean, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I actually like the song. And they're like,
It's funny
I'm
how
like,
they say it's just because he talks about small town life and how we look at.
yeah,
See, where I live now, this town, this is like small town rural America, right? Like everybody knows everything. When my roof blew off my house, that was like the worst day of my life,
Yeah.
right? Like the Blaine called me the night before, and I was just like, we had just built the house. We sunk a lot of money into this place, and that was just I see it as a blessing because like it's God's way of saying your roof's not done right. I gotta blow this off because
And you got to
when
put it on
hurricane
back.
comes, when hurricane
Yeah.
comes,
Yeah.
your house is gonna be screwed. So anyway, that was Tuesday night. I rode my motorcycle back here and I had to stop for an eye appointment. So it was about 3.5 hours, 4 hours. I didn't get here till about 10:30, 11. And I pull into the parking lot. There's 12 men from my church already working on the
Build it.
roof.
Yeah.
And there's a combination of other Canadian refugees who are builders and some Belizean builders as well, working together, putting it putting it together and salvaging what they could and like pulling screws out. Like it was such a beautiful thing to watch. And that's a cool thing here. So when I rail, this is money right here.
Yeah.
When I live where I live, my road is out there. It's a dirt road. Okay. There's no electrical lines out here. We can get water, but we don't need it. We live in a
Yeah.
freaking jungle. We can catch rainwater, right? So you take the dirt. Our dirt road's got a lot of potholes right now. We're not bitching to the city and paying our stupid taxes to the city so that they can choose how to spend our money, which is how the government does it. I love it when Trump said that when they said, "Well, you don't let you say you hate paying taxes." Said, yeah, because I hate the way the government spends my money.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and so here, when we need to get these potholes fixed, everybody on the street, we get a quote. Everybody on the street chips in the money, and
Yeah.
we fix our
Just gets
potholes.
paid for. Yeah. It's
If
done.
we can't, if it's and we take care of it. If it's too high, we don't get it, but when we pull it out through the group, we're good to go.
And
Just
it's
like the
probably
people,
when you pull it out like that, it probably gets done faster than if it went through the government.
oh, definitely. And then the
Yeah.
people fixing my roof, how quickly it got done. I think it was you messaged me about like imagine how long that would have taken in Canada. My
Well, in
roof blew off.
Canada, you know what they would have asked you? Oh man, hey man, you got insurance? Oh, that sucks.
And
Oh
then the
man,
insurance company would try,
should
the
probably go
insurance
through
company would try
insurance.
not to pay me, and the insurance company would try to not pay me
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
I didn't do the rain dance before the, like some sort of ritual rain dance before the wind. I didn't read my fine print because that's all insurance companies are good for. Their job is not to pay you out. Their job is to not pay,
No,
right? So anyway, they fixed that. The government is not welcome here, right? The Belize government's pretty hands off to begin with.
yeah,
Um, but the government, they're welcome here, but they don't hold any real power. The Mennonites run the community. They have their own electricity. We have our own water, our own oil well.
yeah,
Um, their businesses are the best businesses in the country, like the paved roads. They've managed to do all this with little to no government interference. So my roof gets fixed fast. We fix our road, right? Our gas here is not run through pipelines. Everybody has their own tank. Your tank runs out, you go fill it up, right?
yeah,
So we handle as butane that we use here. So we do all this stuff with no need for the government. People are happy. We don't, that the government in Canada and in the West in general, Canada's the worst though,
yeah.
is people are like they feel they need the government. Well, you couldn't accomplish this without the government. Bullshit, you couldn't, right?
No,
Bullshit, you couldn't. Well, you wouldn't have your water lines without the government. Yes, you could.
yeah. You can do
Yes,
it.
you
You can
could.
do all of it. Yeah, you can do all
Like
of it.
there's a private company here in the little town that I'm in that they're the ones who do the water lines.
Well,
And
you want to,
when we
but
needed our because we got a water line put in just in case during the dry season if we run out,
yeah,
we had a water line put in. The guy called. We got the guy's number. We called him.
yeah,
Bang, he was out like the next day. Now the earth's a
done.
little easier to dig around here than the clay up in
Yeah,
Canada, but yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
but when I gotta wrap this up. I gotta get going. But
Yep.
when I realized that I didn't need anybody is when I had to get this place. When I got this place in January or February, whenever the fuck I don't. The whole year's been a blur to me. But I know nothing about construction. I spent my entire teenage life and my 20s training martial arts. That's all I fucking did. Right? I I don't know how to build shit. I don't know how to fucking hammer shit well. I don't know how to paint well. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But when push came to shove and I needed to get it done, I fucking learned. Right? And
Yeah.
so like all you don't need the government to do any of that stuff for
Anything. You don't
you.
need the
And
government to do
to
anything.
any of it.
They are
Well,
parasites.
no, when we got this place, blank slate. like blank slate. I mean, like I tore a wall down and got all the shit out myself. I put down the floorings all myself. I did all the rent. I had no education. No, I haven't done it before. I didn't need anybody. I didn't need to, you know, of course we could have hired somebody to help us do stuff and it would have run more smoothly and better. But I didn't need that. Like you don't need government. All you need is a good work ethic and the ability and just a goal in mind. You can fucking get it done. You don't need uh like you said, like the Canadian mindset. You need the government. You need like
Well, think
it's
about
poverty,
go,
it's poverty mindset basically. You need
and go
somebody to
back
help.
to my and they take your money and they choose how to spend it. Look at my
Yeah,
roof, right? It was my church that came to my aid.
yeah.
In Canada, they try to run the church down because that's the stuff the church does. Like when it comes to healthcare, like someone gets sick or someone who does somebody's in
Well,
poverty.
look at what's going
Like,
on right now with the immigrants that they're on the fucking doors that all over Toronto, and they're like, "Well, the churches need to bring them in," and like, what? I'm like, "Well, you shut the churches down
you
for the
shut the
last
churches
two.
down, yeah. Like,
They're
and you
like,
and you hate them.
I know this firsthand because my father-in-law is a pastor. They shut them down for 2 or 3 years. They didn't. Most of the revenue from churches is tithing. Like you don't get money. Like churches don't just inherit money and get money. Like people have to donate. So when you kick
Yeah,
people out of the fucking church and you say you can't come there, there's no donations. There's no fucking church. So now you're expecting churches and these institutions that traditionally help immigrants and people that are in these positions where they're stuck on the street and they're refugees, but they don't have money to help them. What the
yeah.
fuck do you expect? You
And
dumbass.
I think part of that 2030 agenda, because I know we got to wrap up, but that
Yeah,
2030 agenda with bringing in all these immigrants, that could be one of the conspiracies where they're bringing them all in just because they're eventually going to get really pissed off. Looks what's happening in France. And there's a
yeah,
guy called, there's a YouTube channel called Angry Canadian Immigrant. It's actually
yeah,
pretty eye-opening. Where they come, they're promised all this stuff, they get these good jobs, and they're never going to own a house because they can't. They can't make enough
yeah.
money because it
Can't make
costs so
enough
much
money.
for rent and everything, and they pay so much in tax. They can't do a damn thing. So
Well,
make the people reliant on the government. Make the government powerful. That's how you gain control. These people don't even care about money. They're all
well, to
loaded. They don't care about money. All they care about is power.
to wrap it up, the best example of what you just said is Maxime Bernier was talking about it with his interview with Jordan Peterson, the Indian Act, and the reason natives in Canada can't fucking make it out is because they can never own the land, right? You can't inherit it, right? It's because it's part of the act. So if you put in all this money towards the land, like the property, the house, um, you can never get the equity out of it. So there's no generational wealth that's passed on between
Hmm. I didn't know
a
that.
native, right? Yeah, he like I don't do any justice to that argument because I'm butchering it a bit, but that's what Maxime was talking to Jordan about, right? Because it's on that reserve, right? It's part of the tribe. Like I'm butchering it, but
That is
someone who's
convenient
raised,
for CBC to take videos of the rundown
yeah,
reserve
yeah.
because they have no
So
they have no reason to
so
build it
like
up.
as a person like me, say I was a native living in that, like if I was to put money into that house to make it worth more, I can never get the equity out of it. You get what I'm saying? So I
Mhm.
can't pass it
Yeah,
down
yeah,
to my
yeah. No, I
child.
totally
I
understand.
can't.
Yeah.
There's no equity passed on because of how reserves are run and through that our Indian Act. And so he, like Maxime was saying, he would make some changes so that that would help change the future and start making generational wealth for these people. But it's the exact same thing you were just talking about. You know what I
That's
mean?
interesting because they have Garfuna villages here that I think it's the same thing happens there because they're
Yeah.
given land and
And so
I
everyone's
bet
all up
and
in
and
arms.
it's a Commonwealth, country, so it's probably very
Yeah.
similar.
And everyone's all
Yeah,
up in arms about it. But when you look at the very particulars about how the laws are written, they can't pass that along to their children. So their children then become poor. The children's children then become poor. So if you want to fix the issue, like you got to look at these fine details in the law. The 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 reason that these people are still impoverished is not because they don't have the capacity to do better. It's because there's something holding them back, right? And what's holding them back is you can't pass down wealth. How the fuck they ever going to get out of there? It's going to
yeah. The only
be the
well,
same.
that's that in a way that's almost what they want. So, well, in order for me to get wealth, I gotta go move into the
Yeah.
regular area, like in Canada, right? Like and make my buy some land there. Like
Yeah.
that's really all that they can do. I didn't even, I
Anyway,
had no knowledge of that. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. Next time we talk, I'll dig up the actual the wording, the proper wording,
Yeah.
because he talked about it with Peterson, and it made a
Yeah.
lot of sense of
That
why.
makes sense too, because it's good. Like I said, it's good for photo ops to say like, oh,
Yeah,
here, you people living in Canada, look how guilty you should feel. That's what the reserves look like. Meanwhile, they look
yeah,
like that because of the policy that the government put in.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, I got to get out of here because I got to go teach a class and shit.
All right, man.
Business
Well,
owner life.
thanks for having me on.
All right. Anyway, it was a fun talk. I'm glad to be doing this shit again. Fuck, it's it was a while that I couldn't do it, but you know how it is when you start
Yeah.
brick and mortar. It's hard to find the time to do luxuries. You know what I
My
mean?
my
This is a
sign out.
luxury right now.
I'm gonna sign out with how I started. If you support cuties and not Sound of Freedom, you're a fucking pedophile.
You're a fucking pedophile. I agree with you. And that's the show for today. Thank you everybody for watching. All right, I'll see you next time.
See
All
ya.
right.